1181. Who decides right or wrong? However, it seems to me that the source energy you gave me is more potent than what I would normally obtain through cultivation. More advanced. Taoist Baihua carefully chose his words, asking slowly. Li Ping naturally wouldn't tell Baihua that the reason this source energy was far superior to ordinary energy was because he wanted to use the power of faith from the masses to sublimate it into source energy essence. However, all current attempts had ended in failure. After all, even something discarded by a true immortal was a power beyond the mortal realm. It wasn't so easy to control. It's just your illusion, Taoist. How's your recovery? If you're almost ready, let's be on our way soon, Li Ping said indifferently. Taoist Baihua laughed awkwardly, with no other choice but to sigh and take his leave. After ensuring the absolute safety of the main base, I can consider conquering other small worlds. I know the exact location of each small world, and can even infiltrate them first, transferring the entrance to the void near Daki, Spiritwood, the Empire, and the Netherworld. Just as Holy Emperor Li Ping returned to his throne, sitting and pondering the future direction of the Holy Dynasty, his disciple, Sun Erlang, requested an audience. Master. About that item fished up from the fishing pond before, Sun Erlang looked a little uneasy. Speak freely. Sun Erlang then explained the whole story. It turned out that after the last fishing competition, those who ultimately received the rewards were basically absorbed into the various institutions of the Holy Dynasty. Among them, a middle-aged man named Quan Ruochu was valued by Sun Erlang and taken under his wing. What he had fished up from the fishing pond was a white orb. At the time, Li Ping had personally examined it and found it to be an ordinary object called open black lens bracket nether orchid hidden flower close black lens bracket, so he didn't pay much attention to it. But now, according to Sun Erlang, this nether orchid hidden flower, which on the surface was no more than nascent soul-level quality, had displayed completely illogical abilities after a period of careful cultivation by Quan Ruochu. Quan Ruochu, though already middle-aged, has achieved nothing. Both his parents are dead, and he has neither wife nor children. His only loves in life are fishing and raising flowers, and he has a calm nature with no ambition. So, after fishing up the white orb, he wasn't too discouraged. He even liked this nether orchid hidden flower more than other treasures. Originally, it was thought that this nether orchid hidden flower was like a normal flower, growing in soil and nourished by spiritual energy. But after Quan Ruochu planted it, no matter how carefully he took care of it, it remained on the verge of death, almost withering. Anxious to save the flower, Quan Ruochu actually did something incredible, Sun Erlang said, bowing his head and telling the Holy Emperor in a low voice. He actually planted the nether orchid hidden flower on himself, using his own flesh as soil, irrigating it with his essence and blood. In just a few days, he went from a fairly strong man to being skin and bones, his breath as weak as a thread. But he still didn't give up, still planning to irrigate it with his last bit of energy. I hadn't seen him for a few days, and when I went to look for him, that's what I saw. Sun Erlang's voice was low. I originally wanted to just get rid of this demonic flower, but Quan Ruochu threatened me with his own life, saying that if the flower lived, he lived, and if the flower died, he died. And considering that this was ultimately a treasure bestowed by Master, I hesitated and didn't act. But seeing Quan Ruochu's body getting weaker and weaker, not far from death, I couldn't bear to stand by and watch. The moment Sun Erlang spoke, Li Ping had already locked onto Quan Ruochu's location, carefully examining the condition of his body. After all, it was just a blue orb, with nothing particularly mysterious about it, and he understood it at a glance. After waiting for Sun Erlang to finish speaking, Li Ping shook his head, his tone stern. Erlang, you disappoint me too much. Sun Erlang's body trembled slightly, and he lowered his head even further. A leader should command the entire army, not be swayed by personal feelings, not even for a small group of dozens or hundreds of people. Since you joined my sect, this is the first time you've actively sought me out, right? And it's just for this matter. After a long silence, Sun Erlang said in a hoarse voice, Master sees clearly. If he died in an instant, I might be indifferent. But watching someone familiar slowly have their life sucked away, withering away, I truly can't remain calm in my heart. I hope Master will punish me. Li Ping's voice was constantly booming, like heavenly thunder, echoing in the Holy Emperor's throne room. The reason I'm disappointed in you isn't just because of your indecisiveness, but also because you can't distinguish right from wrong. Demonic flower. Go back and take a closer look. Li Ping waved his hand, driving Sun Erlang out. Sun Erlang's heart tightened at first, but then he seemed to understand something, and in great joy, he hurried to Quan Ruochu's residence. After being enlightened by his master, Sun Erlang carefully observed again and finally discovered the secret of the nether orchid hidden flower. Although on the surface, this nether orchid hidden flower was constantly devouring Quan Ruochu's essence and blood, it was also simultaneously differentiating a magical power, maintaining the flame of Quan Ruochu's life. In this state between near death and not quite dead, the nether orchid hidden flower grew vigorously. At the same time, Quan Ruochu was also slowly undergoing a complete transformation. His only chance of survival is tied to this nether orchid hidden flower. If I had rashly cut it off at the time, it would have been an ending where the flower died and the person died. I almost made a big mistake. Sun Erlang couldn't help but feel a burst of fear. He sealed the entrance, not allowing any outsiders to disturb him. At the same time, he moved a miniature open black lens bracket heaven and earth furnace close black lens bracket nearby to ensure the spiritual energy concentration around it. After doing all this, Sun Erlang finally breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to Master's guidance, he said with some relief. However, what Sun Erlang didn't know was that the nether orchid hidden flower did protect a bit of Quan Ruochu's heart, that was true. But it wasn't out of gratitude for his planting, but merely a survival instinct before finding a new host. And Quan Ruochu, who only had chi refining cultivation, simply couldn't withstand the nether orchid hidden flower's unbridled absorption, and his complete death was only a matter of time. If there was no external help. And the reason he looked better and better was purely because Holy Emperor Li Ping had helped. Is it righteous or evil, is it right or wrong? Before reaching the final outcome, no one can correctly evaluate it. Only by taking it one step at a time, reaching the end, can one prove oneself. The process is not important. Holy Emperor Li Ping sat on the Holy Emperor's throne, his mind slightly fluctuating. Endless white mist, within a certain maze. How many frozen corpses are there here? Shang Xiaojun, brought into the reversing life and death array by Holy Embryo Li Fan, cried out in shock at the horrifying scene before him. Took a look, and actually reached the reward target for urging updates. Boss is confused. Tomorrow I can only earn this money with tears. 1182. The Yin-Yang Bead of Death. As the commander of the Azure Mystery Army, Shang Xiaojun had suppressed the abyss of calamity for 100 years, remaining composed even in the face of the terrifying annihilation demonic sound tide. But now, he was truly experiencing a long-forgotten, bone-deep fear. The sheer number of dead cultivators in this frozen sea was overwhelming. Shang Xiaojun couldn't imagine where these cultivators had come from. The number of cultivators buried here probably exceeded the entire Xuanwang realm. Nascent soul Li Fan also pretended to be frightened by the scene before him, his body trembling slightly, his face filled with horror. Young lord, don't act rashly, caution is paramount. After a while, he seemed to regain his senses and comforted Shang Xiaojun. Shang Xiaojun's face remained grim, constantly scanning his surroundings, as if unknown enemies were lurking nearby. Something's not right here. Do you hear anything? Shang Xiaojun asked through mental transmission. Sound? What sound? Nascent soul Li Fan was somewhat surprised, and this was not an act. Shang Xiaojun's face was gloomy. Perhaps it's because I've been in the abyss of calamity for too long, I'm more sensitive to any sound. Ever since I came to this lost domain, I've been faintly hearing some kind of whisper. It's intermittent, haven't you heard it? Nascent soul Li Fan narrowed his eyes. This was not his first time here. He had even guided various cultivators to this place. But no one, like Shang Xiaojun, could actually hear inexplicable sounds in the silent frozen sea. With different thoughts arising in his heart, Nascent soul Li Fan solemnly said, "What do you think, young lord? There must be a great secret involved here. But likewise, if we want to investigate it, we will definitely have to take great risks. Should we leave before being discovered, or should we investigate?" Shang Xiaojun did not answer Li Fan immediately. Instead, his ears twitched slightly, as if distinguishing the sounds he heard. After a while, he explained through mental transmission, "Brother Li, follow me. I have a premonition that tracing the source of this sound may unlock some of the mysteries of this place." Nascent soul Li Fan nodded slightly, his sword unsheathed, guarding the two of them. Caution is paramount. The two shuttled through the endless frozen sea. Li Fan was, in fact, already familiar with the overall structure of the great reversal of life and death formation. However, since he was pretending to be here for the first time, He did not expose Shang Xiaojun even when he saw him leading himself around in circles within the formation. He just followed silently. But as Shang Xiaojun stubbornly continued to advance in a certain direction, nascent soul Li Fan also noticed the subtle changes that had occurred around them as a result. Changes that had previously evaded even the analysis of the terminus disintegration disk, and had been overlooked by him. There is actually this hidden change in the formation. As expected of a formation that can prove the Tao of immortality, Li Fan thought in surprise. They continued to move forward. It was as if they were standing still, except that the frozen coffins in the surrounding Dead Sea were constantly rotating around them. The deeper they went, the faster the surrounding scenery rotated. "Brother Li, be careful. It seems that the source of the sound is ahead." Shang Xiaojun's voice was also somewhat nervous. As if passing through a narrow tunnel of time and space, all the surrounding scenes turned into overlapping lines due to the rapid speed. When they broke through the end of the tunnel, countless circles converged into one point. Then, it exploded in their vision. Everything opened up. However, the surrounding air became increasingly cold. Even nascent soul Li Fan and the other felt frozen and stiff. Huff. Activating the spiritual power within their bodies, they tried to dispel the biting cold. The two carefully looked around. It seemed to be the inside of a silver-white sphere, and apart from seeing some blurry boundaries, there was nothing here. Looking back in the direction they came from, what they saw made their pupils shrink sharply. Like a yin-yang fish, a constantly rotating small ball floated quietly in the air. From the dark part of it, nascent soul Li Fan could vaguely sense the aura of the silent frozen sea from before. And inside this white sphere, there were actually 8 more yin-yang balls like this. A total of 9, forming a special shape. Shang Xiaojun swallowed hard. Just one of the yin-yang balls contained an untold number of dead. If that number was multiplied by 9. The two looked at each other, both seeing the fear in each other's eyes. Even their mental communication became cautious. For fear of disturbing the 9 yin-yang balls here. "Young lord, the sound you heard before. It's gone." It stopped abruptly and disappeared inexplicably when I entered here. "Wait." Shang Xiaojun suddenly froze, turning his head to look in the opposite direction of the yin-yang balls. Nascent soul Li Fan followed his gaze, but saw nothing. "Be careful." Shang Xiaojun only reminded him cautiously, and then stopped speaking. His body stiffened, and he stopped moving. His aura also became extremely weak in an instant. Only then did nascent soul Li Fan realize that some invisible existence seemed to have descended into this space. Dong, dong, dong. Although there was no specific sound, the heavy footsteps were actually stepping on Li Fan's heart. The distance was getting closer and closer. Without paying attention to the two intruders, it went straight to the vicinity of the 9 yin-yang beads. Huff. The sound of gentle breathing rang out. The space near the yin-yang beads also showed bursts of distorted fluctuations. Like being boiled in boiling water, the yin and yang parts of the 9 small balls rotated around each other, becoming more distinct. And Shang Xiaojun and Li Fan clearly saw that strands of frozen corpses seemed to enter the 9 yin-yang beads with the breath of this unknown existence. The whole extremely strange process did not last too long. The oppressive footsteps gradually moved away, and the silver-white space slowly returned to normal. The 9 yin-yang beads also slowly settled down and regained their calm. After a long time, the two felt they could communicate again. "Just now, what exactly was that?" A sense of crisis like needles all over my body, and a spiritual sense warning me madly. As if disaster would strike at any time. Even the eternal celestial Venerable may not be able to bring this feeling, right? After a few short sentences, the two fell into an extremely oppressive silence. "The sound I heard just now should be the echo of that unknown existence's footsteps. The echo here," Shang Xiaojun guessed. "Even if it has left, the reverberations still linger." The countless frozen corpses in the yin-yang beads seem to be the work of that guy. But I still can't figure out where so many corpses came from. And what is outside this silver-white space? Nascent soul Li Fan could not answer all these questions. He originally thought that this was just the Taoist temple of the rebirth celestial Venerable. But he did not expect that in this life, by accident, he actually discovered a deeper secret hidden behind it. There's still a chapter at 12:30. I've been rushing to write the Heavenly Physician Extra these 2 days, and it's finally done. There will be no more updates. The point coins will be returned via the original route. 1183. The Immortal Aspiration. Previously, Li Fan had always harbored doubts about the countless corpses within the great reversal of life and death array. Because there were too many inexplicable aspects. Firstly, the sheer number was overwhelming, and secondly, the preservation of all the corpses was relatively intact. They didn't resemble those left behind during a great calamity or the destruction of the world. Originally, I speculated that the rebirth Heavenly Venerate might also be an alias of the Heavenly Physician, but now it seems. Recalling the horror of that formless monster, Li Fan couldn't help but question his own judgment. What is the connection between that monster and the rebirth Heavenly Venerate? Li Fan had seen the rebirth Heavenly Venerate before. In his 119th life, a white mist figure suddenly appeared and instantly killed 3 Dharma transmitters. But afterwards, the Dharma transmission Heavenly Venerate intervened, and the matter was dropped. Dharma transmission, Heavenly Physician, rebirth. There must be some kind of connection between these 3. But that formless monster just now. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through the mind of the holy embryo Li Fan. Brother Li, for safety's sake, let's leave this place first. Shang Xiaojun's words interrupted his reverie. The two followed the path they came from and returned to the Yin-Yang Pearl. However, this time, they appeared directly on the Sea of Life, opposite the Sea of Silent Death. Moreover, the winds on the ocean were all blowing towards the exit of the maze domain. This is a hint to leave. The two looked at each other, startled once again. They didn't dare to continue lingering here and could only leave ignominiously from the exit. Huff. Leaving the maze domain of life and death and returning to the white mist, Shang Xiaojun didn't feel the joy of surviving a disaster. Instead, he became somewhat depressed. The Xuanwang realm hides too many secrets. The strength of the formless existence we encountered this time is definitely no less than that of the mysterious person who transformed the world. Even if the Heavenly Venerate returns, can he really purge everything? Having witnessed too many things beyond his understanding in a short period, Shang Xiaojun suddenly became somewhat lost. Holy embryo Li Fan immediately changed the subject. What do you think of that formless existence, Xiaojun? It doesn't seem like a cultivator. Otherwise, it wouldn't have ignored us. Instead, it seems like some kind of entity performing a fixed task. Monster. Shang Xiaojun managed to squeeze out this adjective after a long pause. But even as a monster, it is an existence that absolutely crushes us. He mocked himself. I have been stationed in the abyss of curses for hundreds of years, my divine skill has been completed, and I pride myself on being rarely matched below the level of eternal life in the Xuanwang realm. Who would have thought that after traveling with Brother Li for only a year and a half, I would have witnessed so many terrifying and awe-inspiring existences. Only then did I realize how ignorant I was before. Li Fan comforted him. It's not that Xiaojun is not strong. It's that these old monsters are hidden too deeply. After pondering for a moment, Holy Embryo Li Fan asked, does Xiaojun feel somewhat disheartened? Not at all. As the saying goes, when a country is about to fall, there must be demons. The more chaos there is, the more it shows that the Xuanwang realm is terminally ill. After feeling down for a while, Shang Xiaojun suddenly became excited again. However, with the strength of the two of us, it will be a bit difficult to change all of this. We need helpers, Shang Xiaojun said seriously. I had this intention before. However, it's difficult to find someone trustworthy and not too weak, Holy Embryo Li Fan sighed. Shang Xiaojun looked beyond the white mist with burning eyes. I do have some candidates in mind. Let's go. Let's go back first. During this time of traveling, we have at least gathered some evidence. We have at least a 70% chance of convincing them. While flying in the white mist, Shang Xiaojun introduced them to Li Fan. First classics, I wonder if Brother Li has heard of this person. Although this person is only at the transformation god stage now, his strength is definitely no less than mine. He is proficient in all kinds of magic and martial arts, and is full of knowledge. He is truly a first-class genius in the Xuanwang realm. More importantly, this person is absolutely loyal to the Myriad Immortals Alliance. If we can persuade him to join us, there might even be other surprises. There is also a person named Ji Hongdao. He is a rare array formation genius in this era. If it weren't for his lack of qualifications and background, I think he might have been able to compete for the position of chief of the Immortal Alliance's Array Strategy Hall. Besides array formations, he is also proficient in the art of refining weapons. Shang Xiaojun rattled off one name after another. All of them were people Li Fan knew well. Actually, there is one more person who might also be considered. But, Shang Xiaojun hesitated. However, this person's background is not simple. The involvement behind him is too deep, and pulling him in might not be a good thing. Without keeping him in suspense, Shang Xiaojun continued, although he looks like a naughty child, he is frighteningly strong in actual combat. Even I, in the integration realm, might not be able to force out his full strength. But his mind is not very clear. As long as he sees someone, he will drag them into a fight. Li Fan instantly understood who Shang Xiaojun was talking about. The martial arts-obsessed child, suspected to be the reincarnation of senior brother Zhang Qinmo. Li Fan had once used the extremely high authority of the heavenly profound mirror's origin to search for information about the martial arts-obsessed child. The Myriad Immortals Alliance's internal judgment on him was that he was the soul of heaven and earth, born as a human. Although he had a human body, his behavior, living habits, and way of thinking were not like humans. Instead, he was more like a real manifestation of the soul of heaven and earth. The martial arts-obsessed child was not undefeated in every battle, but his learning ability was too terrifying. Any move used against him during a fight would be immediately learned by him. The Immortal Alliance had also tried to capture him and study him carefully. But he was able to repeatedly disappear out of thin air under strict surveillance. When he reappeared, he was already thousands of miles away. And he had no memory of being captured before. The Immortal Alliance even sent several integration realm experts to kill him together. The martial arts-obsessed child's corpse was gone. But soon after, he reappeared in the world alive. And he had also learned some of the divine powers of those integration realm experts. Being such a troublesome existence, and considering that he was just quietly looking for people to spar with and had not done anything to harm the safety of the Immortal Alliance, the Myriad Immortals Alliance headquarters decided to just strictly monitor him and not interfere anymore. Li Fan guessed that the reason why the martial arts-obsessed child had such abilities was probably related to senior brother Zhang's Great Vow Dharma body. The Great Vow Dharma body was integrated into the heaven and earth, almost equivalent to a part of the law of heaven and earth. It was not surprising to mistake him for the soul of heaven and earth. As for whether the martial arts-obsessed child was related to senior brother Zhang, those two extremely similar faces said it all. Xiao Jun doesn't need to worry too much. We should accept everyone who comes, and the more the better. After all, if what we want to do fails, I'm afraid the Immortal Alliance will no longer have a place for us. Holy Embryo, Li Fan said with a smile. Shang Xiaojun was stunned for a moment, and then nodded. Then let's visit them one by one. 1184. The Heavenly Lord suddenly sent a message. Young Lord, is the first scholar from open black lens bracket era close black lens bracket. On the way to the Celestial Alliance's Tianshu province, Holy Embryo Li Fan asked this question that he had long suspected. Shang Xiaojun paused, seemingly unsurprised that Li Fan knew about the Celestial Alliance's secrets regarding open black lens bracket era close black lens bracket. He replied in a low voice, yes, and no. As far as I know, the Celestial Alliance did use open black lens bracket era close black lens bracket to cultivate a batch of death warriors. But those people, after all, were not born and raised in the Xuanwang realm, lacking that bit of spirituality. Although they could display astonishing talent during the era simulations, their actual performance dropped significantly after they truly arrived in the Xuanwang realm. They are quite suitable as fearless cannon fodder, but difficult to entrust with great responsibilities. Shang Xiaojun shook his head slightly. However, the Celestial Alliance later found a way to improve. Brother Li, do you know that every Dharma transmitter has their own exclusive small world? Holy Embryo Li Fan responded, I've heard of it. Each Dharma transmitter divides a portion of their small world to jointly form a open black lens bracket great primordial world close black lens bracket. It is said to be a truly cruel and chaotic world, where the beings within are completely purged every 100 years. Only those who receive collective praise from the transmitters during the 100 years can be spared. Brother Li, you must know that the beings of the open black lens bracket great primordial world close black lens bracket are either consciousnesses and souls carefully selected from open black lens bracket era close black lens bracket, or peerless geniuses from the worlds of various Dharma transmitters. To be able to stand out in such an environment, their abilities are imaginable. Shang Xiaojun's tone was solemn. The origin of the first scholar is like this. From era to the open black lens bracket great primordial world close black lens bracket, the first scholar emerged step by step, eventually gaining the favor of the Dharma transmitters, who used treasures left by the celestial Venerable to reshape his body. And because he was deeply trusted, he was even granted a special exception, not having to erase his previous experiences and memories. Even though he currently does not hold any specific position in the Celestial Alliance, no one dares to underestimate him. In that case, this first scholar is truly a legend, Holy Embryo Li Fan said with some emotion after listening to Shang Xiaojun's introduction. But then he became somewhat puzzled. We're just going to visit such a person, aren't you afraid that he'll just tie us up and send us to the Dharma transmitters? Shang Xiaojun laughed loudly. Brother Li is overthinking it. Not to mention that I adventured with the first scholar back then, and we have a good friendship. The reason why the first scholar is so deeply trusted by the Dharma transmitters is precisely because, since he was created, his soul has been forever branded with loyalty to the Celestial Alliance. The more experiences he has and the stronger he becomes, the deeper this brand becomes. This is what he said himself. He doesn't care at all, and instead regards it as a great honor. Aren't we doing everything for the Celestial Alliance as well? If he knows that the Celestial Alliance is secretly hiding many conspiracies, he will definitely not choose to ignore it. With his personality, he might even personally take a trip to verify what we said, Shang Xiaojun said with confidence. However, things did not go as smoothly as expected. What? The first scholar isn't here. We clearly made an appointment beforehand. Outside the first scholar's mansion, Shang Xiaojun and Li Fan were stopped. Shang Xiaojun's face was ugly, and the pressure of a Dao integration cultivator surged. Although the two guards in front of the door looked a little pale, they could still remain calm and explained, "Please forgive us, sir. It's just that the master received a secret order from the Celestial Alliance on a temporary basis and left in a hurry. The matter was urgent, so he didn't even have time to say goodbye." Shang Xiaojun tried to contact the first scholar again using a communication talisman. As expected, there was no response. After exchanging a glance with Li Fan, knowing that they couldn't force it, they had no choice but to snort coldly and give up. "I don't think the first scholar is deliberately avoiding us, but that there really is something important," Li Fan whispered. "Yes, I know the first scholar's character, he wouldn't make excuses. I just don't know what happened to the Celestial Alliance. If the first scholar is urgently called upon, this matter is not small," Shang Xiaojun murmured. With their first target failing, the two planned to change their route and find Ji Hongdao of Tianyu province. But they didn't expect that Ji Hongdao had also been transferred away with an appointment. The two looked at each other, and directly temporarily interrupted their search. "Something's not right, let me ask around," Shang Xiaojun frowned. On Li Fan's side, the divine consciousness hidden in the immeasurable mirror had already quietly taken action. He silently stole a heavenly profound small mirror from the Sun family and activated the immeasurable mirror to peek into the information within. As expected, the heavenly profound mirror already knew about the Celestial Alliance's movements. But the result was somewhat surprisingly shocking to Li Fan. The Dharma transmitting Celestial Venerable sent a message: "The Xuanwang realm may have some slight tremors recently, the Celestial Alliance needs to prepare in advance to deal with it." Since the creation of the Celestial Alliance, the Dharma transmitting Celestial Venerable has only actively sent messages a few times. The Dharma transmitters attach great importance to it. After disconnecting the immeasurable mirror's spying and comforting it slightly, Li Fan fell into deep thought. He was unsure whether the event of open black lens bracket Celestial Venerable's message close black lens bracket had occurred in previous reincarnations. However, the Xuanwang realm having slight tremors had absolutely not appeared in the many lives that Li Fan had experienced. The Dharma transmitting Celestial Venerable specifically sent a message to explain that the upcoming tremors cannot be too small. If caught off guard and unprepared, it may cause widespread panic. But the Dharma transmitter only sent a message and the main body did not rush back, which also means that the tremors will not really cause devastating damage to the Xuanwang realm. The tremors predicted by the Dharma transmitter are about a month away. Then we will know whether it is a unique event in this life. On Shang Xiaojun's side, he also found out the results. Naturally, it was not as detailed as what was stolen from the heavenly profound mirror, but it was not far off. The entire Celestial Alliance, from top to bottom, has been mobilized. Presumably, relevant orders will soon be passed to the Eternal Immortal Fortress. Brother Li, what do you think? Holy Embryo Li Fan pondered for a moment and said, "What you and I want to accomplish is not something that can be done in a day or two. Since the entire Xuanwang realm is about to face a crisis, let's start preparing to deal with this matter first. The Azure Profound Army cannot be without a leader, and the Roaring Abyss may have another disturbance at that time. Why don't you and I return to the Eternal Immortal Fortress first and wait and see what happens?" Li Fan's suggestion was approved by Shang Xiaojun. So the two temporarily ended this journey in a hurry and returned to the Broken Palm Immortal City. Looking into the distance, at the quiet and deep roaring abyss, the figure that had appeared at the bottom of the roaring abyss previously reappeared in holy embryo Li Fan's mind. Perhaps, the special nature of this life is related to my little actions. Li Fan frowned slightly, somewhat puzzled. There is another chapter around 1230. 1185. Suspected two immortals in the Sea of Stars. In fact, the word, perhaps, can be removed. If the Xuanwang realm really experiences an overall tremor next, then it can be almost certainly concluded that it is caused by some action of Li Fan in this life. The root of the Xuanwang realm's tremor should come from the suction of the immortal ruins. The key is here. What ability do I have to affect the immortal ruins? Scenes from this life flashed quickly before Li Fan's eyes. After excluding all impossible options, Li Fan was left with several suspects. The mysterious figure in the abyss of Qijia who re-implanted the fragments of the world. The invisible existence in the maze of life and death that collects the corpses of cultivators. And the relocation and transportation of the five elements Great Cave Heaven. With Li Fan's own strength, whether it is the main body or the clone, he is currently unable to change the immortal ruins in the slightest. However, his actions can affect and change the fate of those powerful beings who can shake the immortal ruins, thereby causing deviations to occur. It's just a little over a month, so be patient and wait. The holy embryo Li Fan was silent. While the Immortal Alliance was in a state of emergency preparedness, so was the Great Qi of the Holy Dynasty. Not long ago, an edict was issued stating that the Holy Emperor would be testing his divine powers in the void outside of Great Qi. It might cause some tremors, which would be normal and there was no need to panic. The people of Great Qi now worship the Holy Emperor to the point of near fanaticism. Naturally, whatever he says is what they believe. After hearing this, the people not only did not feel nervous or frightened, but instead were full of anticipation for the power of the Holy Emperor's divine powers. In the underground secret room of the Holy Emperor's palace, Superior Yin was facing Li Ping. Those little fellows you sent me last time are indeed very talented. Some are even smarter than I imagined. Two of them have already successfully established their foundation with me. The others should not be far behind. If from the beginning, they accept foundation establishment with me as the only and most correct method, it is indeed of great help to smooth cultivation. Superior Yin first summarized the recent achievements, and then changed the subject. I have been feeling uneasy recently. I heard you are going to test some divine powers. Try to stay far away and don't destroy this small world. I quite like it here, Superior Yin said indifferently. Li Ping nodded in agreement, but his mind was churning. Superior Yin is a world ghost, parasitic in the Xuanwang realm. Even he faintly senses something. It seems that the Xuanwang realm is really going to encounter some calamity. Time slowly passed in anticipation. And without anyone knowing, hundreds of stone puppets quietly flew to the sky above the Xuanwang realm. At the edge of the world, one step away would be to sink into the void. They are still within the scope of the Xuanwang realm and will not be sucked away by the suction of the immortal ruins. And they can also observe the overall macroscopic view of the Xuanwang realm from a high position. These puppets were naturally made by Li Ping. They don't have any other special uses, they are just used to observe and record this Xuanwang realm tremor event. The puppets floated quietly in the air, waiting for the target event to arrive. The day of the preaching prediction is getting closer and closer. On this day, suddenly, Li Fan's main body in the derivation jade space, the holy embryo Li Fan outside the abyss of Qijia, Li Fan's divided spirit in the boundless mirror, and the holy emperor Li Ping in the great Qi of the holy dynasty. All felt something in an instant. They all looked towards the sky. In the life of heavenly Zon-locking spirits, Ji Hongdao once instantly killed cultivators in a state, using the method of mutual destruction to force the evergreen realm One Heart Heavenly Venerate to retreat back to the Five Elders Association. At that time, because of the sudden loss of many cultivators, anchoring, the Xuanwang realm suddenly lightened. It trembled constantly, roaring and rumbling. All the creatures in it felt it, as if a catastrophe was imminent and they would die in the next moment. Li Fan had personally experienced this feeling at that time. And now, this feeling was 100 times stronger. Boom! Without any warning, the Xuanwang realm shook violently. It was as if a giant was tearing the entire world apart with both hands. Cracks appeared from every corner of the earth, and then spread rapidly to both sides. In an instant, the originally flat area became scarred. Countless mountains cracked open from the middle, and some even collapsed entirely and fell into the abyss that suddenly appeared underground. If everything that happened on the surface was not enough to make the cultivators living in the floating cities feel fear, then the changes that occurred in the white mist barrier made all the cultivators in the Xuanwang realm tremble uncontrollably. The white mist barrier that stretched between heaven and earth, which seemed to never change, actually bent and broke. The white mist overflowed from its original fixed area and spread around. Wherever it passed, it devoured the lifespan of all living beings. The boundaries of the states therefore changed. And with the help of the eyes of the hundreds of puppets in the sky, Li Fan saw it more clearly. The essence-devouring white mist seemed to be attracted by something outside the Xuanwang realm, and surged away. However, it seemed that because it was restricted by some kind of force, the white mist could not leave the Xuanwang realm. It was precisely because of the pulling of the two forces that the white mist barrier broke. The world changed drastically, and the spiritual energy also became violent. Li Fan clearly saw that in the Xuanwang realm below, storms, flames, lightning, floods, all kinds of disasters suddenly descended. Under the impetus of the riotous spiritual energy, their power was 100 times, 1,000 times greater than usual. And the tremor of the Xuanwang realm still did not stop. This calamity seemed to be more persistent than imagined. The Immortal Alliance cultivators finally took action. They flew out from various floating cities, calmed the spiritual energy riots, and also tried to repair the various anomalies caused by the violent shaking of the Xuanwang realm. They struggled to move forward in the earth-shattering events. But indeed, there was no fatal danger. It's just that the tremor of the world will ultimately make the creatures in it feel uncontrollable fear. Most cultivators can only have a blank mind and pray in their hearts that the disaster will pass quickly. Other than that, there is nothing they can do. Li Fan has seen the real doomsday scene. Compared with the destruction of the Xuanwang realm by the immortals in the immortal ruins, a slight tremor is really nothing. Therefore, he can ignore the changes in the world and observe very calmly. Strange. The source of the suction that caused the world to tremble. Li Fan suddenly felt a trace of disharmony in his heart. With a thought, the hundreds of stone puppets at the edge of the world floated away from the border and came into the endless void. Without the protection of the Xuanwang realm, the puppets were affected by the strong suction and moved uncontrollably in a certain direction. However, as they moved away from the Xuanwang realm faster and faster, Li Fan also confirmed the abnormality he had noticed. The suction that caused the huge tremor in the Xuanwang realm this time was not from the immortal ruins, but from the depths of the dark star sea. 1186. Intention to travel in the deep sky. The stone golems, after drifting away from the Xuanwang world and heading into the depths of the starry sky, lost contact with Li Fan. However, the shock to Li Fan caused by their observations had not yet ceased. How could they come from the depths of the dark star sea? Could it be that there is another starving immortal there? Li Fan was horrified. His true self in the Yanfa Ju space even needed to actively circulate the Xuanwang immortal heart incantation to suppress his surprise and avoid revealing any abnormalities. For Li Fan, such a thing had not happened in a long time. The tremors in the Xuanwang world continued. However, as time passed, it was clear that the magnitude of the vibrations was slowly decreasing. This inexplicable disaster was passing. But the storm of thoughts in Li Fan's mind had only just begun. The immortal ruins, suction forces generated by the bone immortal comprehending the true immortal rune word named open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket. Sitting and comprehending the Tao, a state of selflessness, has caused a devastating impact on this star field. But true immortal rune words are not something that only one person can comprehend. The abnormality in Yuandao prefecture of the Xuanwang world is suspected to be the archmage of Tiandu comprehending the mysteries of the hunger word art. This time's Xuanwang turmoil, as it stands now, has two possibilities. One is that the cause of the disaster is not related to the open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket word art, but rather the consequence of an existence of the same level. Only the power of the true immortal level could cause such a drastic impact on the Xuanwang world. But this would mean that an unknown existence with true immortal power is still hiding in the dark star sea. Li Fan felt a chill in his heart. The second possibility is that a survivor in the star sea, or even a Dharma transmitter, is also comprehending the hunger word art. They have recently made a breakthrough, thus causing this disturbance. It is very likely that the Dharma transmitter Celestial Venerable was able to send back news in advance. But no matter which guess, it cannot explain the most crucial point: why is this change happening in this era? The light of the transformation Tao stone flickered, continuously replaying the experiences of this life. But it was impossible to determine what exactly caused such a large deviation. Whether it's a true immortal, or an existence capable of comprehending the hunger word art, my actions in this life should not be enough to affect them. But all of this has happened. Li Fan was silent. This is what happens when one's strength reaches a certain level, where unintentional actions can affect the outside world, even changing the fate of others. Variables beget more variables, endlessly, ultimately leading to unexpected events. My true self has been staying in the Yanfa Ju space, which can eliminate suspicion. The avatar Li Ping only frolics in the Daki small world, and even if he moved the 5 elements Grand Grotto Heaven, it would definitely not be enough to cause such a large variable. It must be the holy embryo's travels that went wrong. After some thought, Li Fan finally pinpointed the source of the variables to the mysterious figure at the bottom of the Chija abyss and the formless existence in the rebirth maze. These two, one collects fragments of the world, and the other collects the corpses of cultivators. Most of their time should be spent in the Dark Star Sea. Because of the holy embryo's disturbance, their activities have changed compared to the previous reincarnation. Therefore, it led to the Xuanwang tremors. What else is hidden in the Dark Star Sea? At this moment, a trace of curiosity rose again in Li Fan's heart. He previously thought that only the Xuanwang world was still alive in the Dark Star Sea. Outside the Xuanwang world was a wandering fragment of the world, a dead silence. Now it seems that there are still unknown secrets hidden there. Indeed, I have always had a doubt, in what form do the fragments of the immortal cultivation world in the Dark Star Sea exist? Affected by the suction of the immortal ruins, even the complete immortal cultivation world will inevitably fall towards the immortal ruins. These fragments should not be able to resist and should have been swallowed by the immortal ruins long ago. But judging from the fact that the Xuanwang world has been patched up all along, and the scene that Han Zhang saw in the eyes of the Tian beast, there are still a large number of world fragments existing in the Dark Star Sea. In a way unknown to me. Feeling the intermittent tremors of the Xuanwang world, a flash of inspiration suddenly crossed Li Fan's mind. That's right, previously, because of the existence of the immortal ruins, suction, I was unable to escape the Xuanwang world and go to the Dark Star Sea to find out. But now, because of the influence of this inexplicable suction from the depths of the Dark Star Sea, maybe. Time is of the essence. The tremors are about to disappear, and I don't have much time left. In the Broken Palm Immortal City. During the Xuanwang world's tremors, even the Chija abyss became much more well-behaved, without any noise. And the Qingshan army, who had been suppressing the abyss for 100 years, and were able to defend their positions in the face of the terrifying demonic sound tides, were now truly seeing the great terror of the heavens and the earth, their faces pale and trembling. If it weren't for the holy embryo Li Fan previously teaching the Xuanwang immortal heart incantation, I am afraid that many of them would have had their suppressed negative emotions erupt all at once, losing their minds on the spot and becoming completely insane. Not to mention the ordinary Qingshan army, even the leader of the Qingshan army, the Hidao Shang Xiaojun, who had already known in advance that the Xuanwang tremors would come, was still somewhat absent-minded in the face of such a great catastrophe of heaven and earth. I never thought that the vast Xuanwang world would also be like a small boat on the river in a storm, with the danger of capsizing at any time, Shang Xiaojun said with a bitter tone. The holy embryo Li Fan did not have the time to comfort him. Xiaojun, quickly help me with a favor. What? Shang Xiaojun was a little unable to react for a while, and said blankly. Help me prepare these things, the faster the better. After sending the list of materials to Shang Xiaojun with a finger, the holy embryo Li Fan looked solemn, raised his head and looked up at the sky of the Xuanwang world. Gathering these materials is not a problem. Most of them are in the eternal immortal fortress, but what are you going to do with these things, Brother Li? Shang Xiaojun looked in the direction of the holy embryo Li Fan's gaze. Such vast and mighty power, the entire world is as fragile as a toy in front of it. Isn't Xiaojun curious? The holy embryo Li Fan's eyes were firm, and even a trace of madness emerged. I want to fly out of the Xuanwang world, trace the route and explore the truth. He said firmly. Absolutely not. Outside the Xuanwang world, Shang Xiaojun's face changed, and he repeatedly dissuaded him. Halfway through his words, he stopped inexplicably. Ha ha ha, Xiaojun, are you trying to say, the two words immortal ruins? Shang Xiaojun was completely shocked now, looking at the holy embryo Li Fan with some disbelief. The holy embryo Li Fan did not explain how he knew this secret, but waved his hand and said with a serious expression, precisely because the immortal ruins exist, now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Brother Li, what exactly are you? Shang Xiaojun was uncertain. Could it be that Xiaojun thinks that the culprit of this catastrophe is the immortal ruins? Li Fan asked rhetorically. 1187. Crossing the dust and coming out of the mysterious yellow. Absolutely wrong. Before Shang Xiaojun could answer, the holy embryo Li Fan retorted coldly. The source of this power is not close at hand, but deep within the sea of stars. Ah! Hearing Li Fan's words, Shang Xiaojun was stunned. I know Xiaojun doesn't believe me. But it doesn't matter, once I successfully break free from the shackles of the immortal ruins and fly out of the Xuanwang realm, you'll know I'm right. Please help me, Xiaojun. The holy embryo Li Fan was actually full of solemnity, bowing deeply. Shang Xiaojun didn't dare accept such a salute from Li Fan and quickly stopped him. Brother Li, why are you doing this? It's just some supplies, with our friendship, it's just a matter of a word. Yan Huan, Shang Xiaojun called his confidant to his side and instructed him to handle the matter. Don't worry, everything will be ready in 3 days at most. Too slow. A God-given opportunity, once missed, is gone forever. One day, the holy embryo Li Fan said without any politeness. Shang Xiaojun pondered for a moment, then gritted his teeth. All right. One day it is. Then he seemed to be transmitting a message, giving instructions. After doing all this, he turned to stare at Li Fan, hesitant to speak. Xiaojun, if you have something to say, feel free. Brother Li, are you really going to? Shang Xiaojun still seemed a little incredulous. The holy embryo Li Fan smiled slightly and explained his judgment to him. The powerful force that caused this Xuanwang shock comes from the depths of the starry sky. It's completely different from the suction force of the immortal ruins that has been attracting the Xuanwang realm. In the past, rashly flying out of the Xuanwang realm without the protection of the world, let alone harmony integration cultivators like you and me, even ordinary longevity realm cultivators would probably only end up dying. Perhaps only existences with the strength of the law-transmitting celestial Venerable could barely resist. But now it's different. A pool of water suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan. In the center of the pool, a huge vortex spun rapidly, the water flowing turbulently, devouring everything around it. The holy embryo Li Fan gently pointed. Outside this vortex, another vortex of the same scale appeared. The power of the two vortexes interfered with each other, and the direction of the water flow became unstable. Shang Xiaojun instantly understood Li Fan's meaning. However, these are all Brother Li's guesses, right? What if you guess wrong? To hear the Tao in the morning, and die in the evening is acceptable. The holy embryo Li Fan was full of calmness, without any fear. If I miss this rare opportunity, even if I'm still alive in the future, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So I must go. Li Fan's tone was firm. I want to see what kind of existence possesses such great power. His eyes shone with light. Shang Xiaojun was silent. The efficiency of the Azure Profound Army was trustworthy. In one day, they had prepared all the materials Li Fan needed. Outside the Sea of Stars, there are many dangers. Brother Li, aren't you going to prepare more? Are you planning to cross the starry sky with just these? Shang Xiaojun muttered in his heart. If there were enough time, it would naturally be better to build a solid flying ship. But isn't there a lack of time? I can only barely replace it with the Immortal Alliance's dust-crossing boat. The dust-crossing boat is the only designated flying treasure currently used by the Immortal Alliance to travel back and forth in the White Mist domain. In his 114th life, Li Fan followed Ji Hongdao on this boat to the Chi-Cha Abyss. The dust-crossing boat is forged from many rare materials and comes with many array protections. The entire Eternal Immortal Fortress only has 2 of them. Being able to contribute one of them shows that Shang Xiaojun is truly loyal. However, as long as I can survive the most intense game point of the 2 forces outside the Xuanwang realm, there shouldn't be any danger. The holy embryo Li Fan seized the last moment to modify the dust-crossing boat. Actually, there was one more thing he didn't say clearly. The biggest reliance for the holy embryo Li Fan to dare to cross the starry sky was not relying on any external objects, but his own foundation establishment strange object, the Black Sword Sky Anomaly. As a law embodiment, the Black Sword is far more indestructible than most things in the Xuanwang realm. Moreover, unlike ordinary protective materials that gradually wear out, the black sword can instead use external forces to continuously quench the sword body, making itself more adaptable. I also have to thank the law-transmitting celestial Venerable's new method. Even if I abandon my physical body, as long as the law of the sword is not extinguished, I can continue to exist in the void. While full of confidence, the holy embryo Li Fan also considered the various unexpected situations that might be encountered after flying out of the Xuanwang realm. For example, the law of the black sword sky anomaly is the embodiment of the Xuanwang realm's sword law. If I leave the Xuanwang realm and lose the support of the world, will my strength immediately plummet? Become extremely weak? Furthermore, Heavenly Physician once mentioned that outside the Xuanwang realm, in the void, there is a need to worry about a certain disease. Li Fan had also seen this disease on Han Zhong. Pitch black and decaying, it infects the soul. Even the boundless emptiness method of replenishing the soul has no alleviating effect on it. The holy embryo Li Fan didn't ask to be immune to this disease, he only hoped to use a large amount of precious materials to nourish the soul and prolong the time he could persist in the void. Another day passed quickly. The vibration of the Xuanwang realm was visibly coming to an end. The Xuanwang realm cultivators all had a look of rejoicing after surviving a catastrophe. There were still many who were still afraid, fearing that this terrifying disaster would descend again. Outside the Chi-Cha abyss, the holy embryo Li Fan was fully prepared. The dust-crossing boat was vastly different from its original appearance. Li Fan bid farewell to the Azure Profound Army and walked slowly into the flying boat. Looking at Li Fan's back, Shang Xiaojun hesitated to speak. He even felt an uncontrollable urge in his heart to follow along, rush out of the Xuanwang realm, and explore the secret behind that vast power. As a cultivator, how could he not be curious about that level of power? However, he was not alone after all. There were too many things to consider. Shang Xiaojun suddenly felt a little envious of the figure on the dust-crossing boat. Xiaojun, at this moment, do you want to put life and death aside and come with me? As if he could read minds, he suddenly asked via voice transmission before leaving. Before Shang Xiaojun could answer, the holy embryo Li Fan said with a smile, that won't do. Shang Xiaojun was slightly stunned. Xiaojun, don't forget that there are still secretly hidden, treacherous villains plotting against the Xuanwang realm. If you and I both leave, wouldn't we be letting those villains succeed? I thought you had blinked and forgotten about this. Shang Xiaojun muttered to himself. The dust-crossing boat slowly ascended. The holy embryo Li Fan's voice echoed in Shang Xiaojun's ears. The future of the Xuanwang realm and the 10,000 Immortals alliance depends on you, Xiaojun. If I am lucky enough to survive this disaster, I will definitely rush back to help you. Shang Xiaojun followed the dust-crossing boat all the way, left the white mist, and watched it disappear into the sky. He felt a sense of loss in his heart. Although he had only known Li Fan for a short time, he was deeply impressed by the other party's strength and demeanor. Live well, Shang Xiaojun said silently in his heart. 1188. The sword star appears in the daytime. After finishing the act in front of Shang Xiaojun, the holy embryo Li Fan turned his attention to observing the changes outside the dust-crossing boat. At this moment, the dust-crossing boat had already flown to the edge of the world. The entire Xuanwang realm was beneath his feet, with nothing obscured. Li Fan had observed the Xuanwang realm from this perspective before. However, at that time, the Xuanwang realm, like what he had seen in the hyper-distance teleportation formation, was shrouded in a layer of hazy yellow light, looking like a large ball of light. The details of the scenery inside the world, on the earth, were impossible to see clearly. But now, affected by the enormous suction force from the depths of the star sea, that layer of faint yellow light had been partially lifted, revealing the true appearance of the world hidden beneath. The holy embryo Li Fan saw the distorted white mist barrier, and a monster stitched together from fragmented limbs and flesh. This phrase suddenly appeared in Li Fan's mind. Even from the 9 heavens, the subtle differences between different regions could still be discerned. Living beings within the state domains might find it difficult to distinguish, but looking down from outside the Xuanwang realm, one could immediately notice this disharmony. The holy embryo Li Fan quickly awakened from his slight daze. The dust-crossing boat emitted creaking sounds, a sign of being subjected to strong external squeezing forces. The holy embryo Li Fan felt no fear, ignoring everything, and even accelerated the speed of the dust-crossing boat again. After completely leaving the Xuanwang realm, he felt the surroundings suddenly darken. It was as if at dusk, the sun instantly fell below the horizon. Darkness, coldness, deathly silence. Various feelings surged into the holy embryo Li Fan's heart. The Xuanwang Immortal Heart mantra operated spontaneously, helping Li Fan resist these negative emotions. As learned through images and puppets, it is indeed different from experiencing it personally. Whether it's the synchronized perception of the puppets, or the remaining influence of the Medicine King Cauldron, neither is as real as this moment. Just as the holy embryo Li Fan was thinking this, he suddenly turned his head to look. In that instant, a sense of unease arose in his heart for no reason. It was as if something would suddenly appear behind him, inflicting a fatal blow. Even though his divine sense scan had clearly told him that there was no danger behind him, the feeling in his heart kept urging him to turn around and see for himself. Only after finally confirming that there was no imagined crisis did the strangeness in his heart slowly subside. At this moment, the dust-crossing boat had changed from the previous slight creaking to a roaring sound. It was as if countless ancient ferocious beasts were constantly impacting the hull, and cracks began to appear on the boat. The engraved formations also began to show signs of shattering. The holy embryo Li Fan had already prepared to abandon the boat. 99 sword shadows suddenly appeared around him, revolving around him, cutting out a buffer zone of absolute space. The holy embryo Li Fan's body also slowly withered, losing its flesh color, instead presenting a strange metallic luster. Although the enormous power from the depths of the Star Sea did have some impact on the Immortal Ruins, suction, after all, the Immortal Ruins were fighting on their home ground, and a period of time had passed since the mutation occurred, so the unknown power of the Star Sea had greatly weakened. Therefore, the dust-crossing boat did not float towards the depths of the Star Sea like the stone puppets arranged before. Instead, it inevitably slowly fell towards the Immortal Ruins. However, whether it was the curvature of the trajectory change, or the magnitude of the speed change, it was far from when Li Fan drove the Medicine King Cauldron and actively rushed into the Immortal Ruins. I guessed right, it is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to escape the Xuanwang realm. Seeing that the dust-crossing boat was about to completely shatter, the holy embryo Li Fan no longer hesitated. 10,000 swords is me. The shadows of thousands of rusted swords within the sword tomb faintly appeared behind him, and after a moment, these sword shadows all merged into his body. The dark void around the dust-crossing boat was illuminated, and an extremely dazzling white light emerged from Li Fan's body. Completely engulfing his body, man and sword become one. Then, a brilliant sword light, as if opening up the heavens and the earth, was instantly unleashed. The dust-crossing boat was swallowed by the sword light and disappeared without a trace. The white sword light, however, went against the Immortal Ruins and resolutely headed towards the depths of the Star Sea. This sword light was too bright and dazzling. Even in the sky of the Xuanwang realm below, a white star instantly appeared that could compete with the great sun in the sky. At this moment, countless cultivators cast their gazes towards the location of the holy embryo Li Fan. And Shang Xiaojun was instantly lost in thought, feeling a sense of loss in her heart. The sword light was unparalleled, advancing rapidly. The holy embryo Li Fan felt the shackles of the Immortal Ruins becoming smaller and smaller. The reason why he could be so smooth was not only because he transformed into the Black Sword Heavenly Wonder and unleashed the ultimate sword, but more importantly, it was still the influence of the mysterious power in the depths of the Star Sea. Having left the Xuanwang realm, without the interference of various laws in the world. Therefore, he could more clearly feel the remaining power in the void. Unlike the Immortal Ruins, suction, which exists eternally, this Star Sea power is like a tide, intermittent, continuous and vast. The holy embryo Li Fan felt waves of immense power surging, and even had the illusion that he was currently piloting a small boat, floating and sinking on the stormy sea. Is that the stone puppet I placed before in front? Not long after traveling in the void, the holy embryo Li Fan once again felt the severed connection from before. But what made Li Fan's heart skip a beat was that not all of the puppets were still intact. At least 1/3 of the puppets had disappeared for unknown reasons. It is possible that they were unfortunate and failed to escape the shackles of the Immortal Ruins. But it is also possible the holy embryo Li Fan was accelerating towards the location of the puppets. But suddenly, he subconsciously slowed down. Because just now, among these surviving 74 puppets, another one disappeared for no reason. Right in his perception and surveillance. It disappeared inexplicably. And Li Fan had no idea how that puppet disappeared. The dark Star Sea is indeed full of crises. A chill rose in the holy embryo Li Fan's heart for no reason. Controlling his own flying speed, he let the remaining 73 puppets lead the way, with Li Fan following far behind. And next, the puppets that suddenly disappeared from time to time showed Li Fan the treacherousness of the void in the dark star sea. As the number of missing puppets increased, Li Fan slowly came back to his senses. These puppets don't seem to have been attacked by some unknown existence, but rather the places they passed were wrong. There, even space itself no longer exists. Only pure emptiness remains. It's like on a flat road, one black, bottomless cave after another. Carelessly stepping on one is a fate of never being seen again, whether alive or dead. While Li Fan was thinking this, another puppet disappeared. Only 61 remained. There's still chapter 1230. 1189. Time is different inside and outside. Li Fan didn't know what the consequences would be after falling into these voids. Nor was there any way to identify the existence of these voids. He had no choice but to adopt a clumsy method, continuing to let the remaining stone puppets scout the way, while he avoided the routes taken by those inexplicably disappearing puppets. As the number of stone puppets continued to decrease, Li Fan's heart slowly sank. At this rate of attrition, he was afraid that he would definitely not be able to reach the depths of the star sea in this life. But the thing that Li Fan was worried about did not happen. When only the last 33 puppets remained, and after flying through the void for a long time, the situation of puppets suddenly disappearing no longer occurred. It seems that these voids are not widely present in the dark star sea, but are densely clustered in a certain area. Outside the Xuanwang realm, the holy embryo Li Fan pondered. 33 puppets in front, Li Fan transformed into sword light behind. The speed kept increasing, heading towards the unknown dark front. It's smoother than I expected. Now I am already a considerable distance away from the Xuanwang realm, but this Xuanwang realm sword Dao incarnation of mine does not feel any weakening of power. This is a bit interesting. According to common sense, without the support of the world's power, the various laws wandering outside the world would inevitably weaken to a certain extent. But now this reduction has not appeared. Even the sword Dao, which had already reached its limit in the Xuanwang realm, no matter how much he comprehended, could not go any further, but now after staying in the void for a while, the bottleneck actually loosened directly. Even if the talent of this holy embryo is not outstanding, he feels that all kinds of thoughts and insights are pouring in uncontrollably. As if he had directly transformed into some peerless genius. The holy embryo Li Fan even had the urge to ignore everything and concentrate all his energy on comprehending the Tao. But it was forcibly suppressed by Li Fan using the Immortal Heart incantation. This abnormal phenomenon could not help but make Li Fan's thoughts run wild. Does the entire Dark Star Sea actually share a set of laws? The Xuanwang Realm Sword Dao is a part of the common Sword Dao of the entire Star Sea. Outside the world, in the void, one sees a broader world. The upper limit is invisibly propped open. It is indeed a place where danger and opportunity coexist. I'm afraid that the celestial physician and the law transmitter often run to the Dark Star Sea, and there is such a factor in it. Thinking of the celestial physician and the law transmitter, Li Fan's heart could not help but become a little more solemn. He had only stayed for a while, and he had already gained such a good harvest. It was hard to imagine what realm these two, who had lived in the Star Sea for thousands of years, had reached. The celestial physician's suggestion was indeed golden advice. Even the disease in the void that he was very cautious about still descended on the holy embryo Li Fan. Without the slightest warning, just as Li Fan was immersed in the joy of his imminent breakthrough in Sword Dao comprehension, a strange sense of weakness suddenly surged into his heart. Upon internal inspection, a black spot appeared in his soul. That black spot eroded the soul, as if it had directly occupied the original soul. No matter how many treasures that protected the soul Li Fan had swallowed before, they could not stop its invasion. And the means prepared to nourish the soul were also ineffective. The upper limit of soul strength has decreased, rather than the soul itself being damaged. The holy embryo Li Fan was a little dignified. Fortunately, the speed of the black spot's spread was not too fast, and Li Fan was still able to take corresponding countermeasures. In the soul, a sword shadow appeared. The sword light flashed, directly cutting off the piece of soul occupied by the black spot. And as the soul was divided, Li Fan's sword body instantly turned into two halves. The part that was not eroded by the black spot suddenly accelerated and fled from its original location. And the infected half stopped moving forward. Sitting cross-legged in the void, concentrating on sensing the inexplicable black meaning in the weakened soul. The pain of splitting the soul is difficult to describe in words. Even with the immortal heart incantation blessing, the holy embryo Li Fan felt a darkness in front of him, and almost fainted directly. A feeling even weaker than being eroded by the black spot suddenly surged into his heart, and he couldn't care about the pain and weakness. He quickly absorbed the essence of the treasures that nourished the soul that he had refined earlier. Without the inhibitory effect of the black spot, the holy embryo Li Fan's clean soul slowly became stronger again. This is what is called scraping the bone to heal the wound, Li Fan said with some emotion. It is because the new method is strange, the foundation of cultivation is immortal, and the body is not destroyed. In addition, he built his cultivation base with the Xuanwang sword Dao. Can he support him to cut his soul at will like this, instead of becoming demented on the spot? Unfortunately, without the 5 elements Great Cave Heaven and the infinite Yingshu method, relying on these external objects is not a long-term solution after all. Every time I cut, I am a little weaker than before. Quote. I hope I can persist to the depths of the star sea. Li Fan closed his eyes, temporarily eliminating all distracting thoughts, and repaired the soul wound. At the same time, the other part that was previously infected by the black spot and left in the void had completely ushered in the end of death. That was an even more desperate and terrifying ending than dying of old age. Just like a mortal suffering from Alzheimer's disease, the half that was originally sensing the black spot became slower and slower in thinking. The head became more and more sluggish, and even what he wanted to do had to be recalled for a long time. Even if the synchronized consciousness of other bodies came, it seemed to be blocked by layers and could not be understood at all. In the end, it completely fell into the stillness of thinking. Like the soul, it completely turned into a dead silence. Just like this dark star sea. Xuanwang realm, Yanfahui space. Li Fan's main body felt the image information transmitted by the holy embryo, and his heart was secretly chilled. What made him frown was not the invisible voids and black spot plagues in the star sea, but the time difference between the main body and the holy embryo. The holy embryo transformed into a sword and, with the help of the star sea's power, had left the Xuanwang realm for a long distance. Therefore, Li Fan was able to discover that between the Xuanwang realm and the depths of the dark star sea, the time flow is not synchronized. It seems that it is still affected by the immortal ruins. Even if it is not as terrifying as the edge of the immortal ruins, where 1,000 years pass in an instant, it is slower than the time flow in other places in the dark star sea. Now, it's about 1 to 2. Moreover, as the holy embryo continues to move away, this ratio is still expanding. Li Fan couldn't help but think of more. The dark star sea within the high wall is inevitably affected by the immortal ruins. Large or small. Does that mean that the time flow inside and outside the high wall is also different? Is it possible that tens of thousands of years have passed since the disaster of the severance of the ancient immortal road in the Xuanwang realm? And outside the high wall, in fact, has time passed even longer? Thinking of this, Li Fan couldn't help but close his eyes, concealing the slight light in them. 1190. Wanderers in the Sea of Stars. The end of the previous chapter has been modified, please reread it if you read it early. Although the development of various technologies between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Old Men's Association was not slow during their confrontation, with various methods emerging one after another. In fact, this period of rapid development only lasted for less than 3,000 years. Since the great calamity of the Immortal Path's severance, for tens of thousands of years, most of the Xuanwang realm has been in a state of mutual slaughter and strife. Civilization regressed instead of advancing. If my guess is true, then it's unbelievable what the difference in civilization between inside and outside the high wall will be. A closed civilization prides itself on being the strongest country in the world. But one day, the passage to the outside world is suddenly opened, and in the face of enemies whose force is far ahead by several eras, it has no power to resist and quickly falls and perishes. Such things are common in the history of civilization. Not to mention before time traveling, even now, there are still some small worlds that have lost contact with the Xuanwang realm and forgotten the existence of cultivators. They have established a prosperous mortal power, and the historians write about their achievements in great detail. As a result, only a foundation establishment cultivator is needed to easily destroy the so-called prosperous dynasty. Li Fan's goal has always been transcendence and longevity. To this end, he has reincarnated countless times, just to open up a path in the crisis-ridden and disaster-stricken Xuanwang realm. Ultimately, he wants to leave this dark star sea and go outside the high wall. But at this moment, the speculation about the possible existence of civilization outside the high wall makes Li Fan secretly shudder. If there really is a cultivating civilization that has developed for so many years, they may have mastered the power comparable to true immortals. They might even be able to influence still true to a certain extent. Li Fan's eyes flickered, and his thoughts fluctuated. However, he was not afraid. Still true is his greatest confidence. Being able to regress time and time again, and bring memories and experience back to the established anchor point, even if the outside of the high wall is ahead by tens of thousands of years, he can easily narrow the gap between the two sides through several reincarnations. Just need to be careful. Before clarifying the situation, use clones and holy embryos. The main body must not go out. Always prioritize stability. I'm not afraid of what monsters exist outside the high wall, I'm just afraid that there is nothing outside the high wall. In the dark void, the sword light transformed by the holy embryo Li Fan closely followed behind the 29 puppets. Only half a year has passed in the Xuanwang realm since he broke through the boundary. From the perspective of the holy embryo Li Fan, he has been away from the Xuanwang realm for a full 10 years. The difference in the flow of time has further amplified after entering the Star Sea. It reached its peak not long ago, a daunting 50-1. But as the holy embryo Li Fan continued to move forward, the time difference between his location and the Xuanwang realm slowly returned to convergence. From 50-1, it dropped all the way to 10-1. Not much different from when he just left the Xuanwang realm. Li Fan knew that this was because he was slowly approaching another huge source of power that distorted the flow of time. The Star Sea is vast. Even if I use this unknown power to reach the limit of flying 100 times faster in the Xuanwang realm, it took me so long to reach my destination. Holy embryo Li Fan sighed slightly. During these 10 years, he has cut off his divine soul more than 300 times. From the peak period, almost comparable to a Xuanwang realm Dao integration cultivator, to now, only the strength of a normal mortal. The pain suffered during this process, even with Li Fan's perseverance, he would not want to experience a second time. Fortunately, in the last few years, perhaps because his strength had dropped to a very weak level, the infection frequency of the black spots also decreased significantly. And after more than 300 divisions, the holy embryo Li Fan also had some of his own understanding of this inexplicable epidemic. Although I still don't understand the principle of its appearance, it is certain that these black spots are related to the destroyed and disappeared cultivating world in the Dark Star Sea. More than 300 divided souls that were infected by the black spots, if it was just one of them, might not be enough for Li Fan to sense anything. But now that these desolate and dead souls that he has left behind in the Dark Star Sea are all added together, Li Fan has found their common ground. After seemingly completely silent, they did not stay in place. Instead, they flowed quietly towards different places in the Dark Star Sea. The way they moved was also quite mysterious, not a normal movement in space. More like water droplets naturally rolling from high to low, rapidly shuttling through the Dark Star Sea. After reaching their destination, they disappeared forever from Li Fan's perception in turn. Those locations, in the depths of the Star Sea and between the Xuanwang realm, seemed to overlap with the hollows I passed through. Holy embryo Li Fan looked back and remained silent. It seems that the various incredible phenomena in the Dark Star Sea may all be related to each other. So what is the power of this Star Sea, comparable to the Immortal ruins? Why didn't I sense it at all when I was in the Xuanwang realm before? Why did it suddenly erupt recently? Filled with doubts, holy embryo Li Fan became more and more curious about the unknown road ahead. While he was pondering, he suddenly became alert and looked forward. The illusion of being stared at by something reappeared. And this time, it was much stronger than what he had experienced in the past 10 years. It made the holy embryo Li Fan's hair stand on end and his heart beat wildly. It was as if there was something extremely terrifying in the dark void ahead. Li Fan's mind moved, first controlling a stone puppet to crash into the location where he sensed the crisis. Then immediately afterwards, a sword light was slashed out from afar. The stone puppet seemed to collide with something, making a muffled sound. Then the puppet disappeared from Li Fan's perception. Affected by the reduction of the divine soul, the sword light that Li Fan slashed out was also far less dazzling than when he first left the Xuanwang realm. But it could still illuminate the surrounding dark space. A pair of huge eyes suddenly appeared from the darkness, staring at Li Fan intently. And a withered hand had quietly arrived in front of the holy embryo Li Fan at some unknown time, about to grab him into its palm. Damn, after sailing in the dark void for more than 10 years. He hadn't encountered any other living beings besides himself. At this moment, suddenly encountering such a terrifying existence, Li Fan's heart jumped wildly and his scalp tingled. Subconsciously, countless sword shadows flew out. He didn't know if his strength had become too weak, or if the monster was too strong. These sword shadows, which could split mountains and divide seas in the Xuanwang realm, didn't cause even the slightest bit of damage. Seeing that he was about to completely fall into the monster's palm, Li Fan was about to fight to the death. But soon, he noticed something was wrong. The huge, skinny human body in front had no vitality at all. Its movements and expressions also remained the same. Just one chapter today. 1191. Meet the real Immortal again. Dead. Startled, Li Fan breathed a sigh of relief. But the lingering sense of danger in his heart told him things weren't that simple. Sure enough, after the Saint Embryo, Li Fan released several sword lights that touched the corpse in front. They vanished into the darkness like candles being blown out. There wasn't even the roar of a collision. That huge, dried-up corpse, like a primordial beast hidden in the void, devoured everything that tried to approach it. A spell illuminated the surrounding space once more. This time, he could see more clearly. The dried corpse's overall appearance was similar to that of a normal human, except its size was abnormally large. Over 30 jong tall, its palm alone was bigger than Li Fan. It seemed to have drifted in this void for a long time, its clothes already decayed. However, after a careful observation, what shocked Saint Embryo Li Fan even more was that the dried corpse in front of him seemed to be just a newborn infant. Its hair was sparse, and it hadn't grown any teeth. It wore an ornament resembling a longevity lock around its neck, and a rotten red string was tied to its ankle. Its terrified, outstretched appearance was like it was frightened and urgently seeking its parents. To be so huge in its infant form. It's hard to imagine its size after it matures. Li Fan suddenly thought of the eternal immortal fortress outside the abyss. That fortress in the white mist, also known as the Severed Hand Immortal City. It was because the entire fortress was built from the enormous severed hand of an ancient celestial venerable that floated out of the white mist. Perhaps there's some connection between the two, Li Fan mused to himself. After all, he hadn't seen any records of such primordial behemoths in the Xuanwang world. Although the giant was dead, a sinister, mysterious power still lingered on its body, trying to drag everything around it down. This mysterious power should be the culprit behind its death, and the source of the extreme unease in my heart. Saint Embryo Li Fan pondered for a moment, a resolute look flashing in his eyes. Even though he never wanted to try it again, he still swung his sword at his divine soul, severing a wisp of his spirit. After his divine soul became extremely weak, his ability to endure pain also decreased significantly. Li Fan couldn't bear it and let out a miserable cry. His face turned pale, and he gasped for breath. Afterward, without hesitation, he bypassed the dried-up giant and continued to move deeper into the sea of stars. The wisp of spirit left in place, after recovering for a moment, actively floated forward and made contact. Knowing yourself and your enemy is the key to victory. It was foreseeable that the Dark Star Sea would be a place Li Fan needed to venture into for quite some time in the future. Therefore, instead of blindly avoiding the dangers in the Dark Star Sea, it was better to take the initiative to investigate and clarify the situation. In any case, his main body was far away in the Xuanwang world, and there was also Wanjun to back him up. He wasn't afraid of causing any consequences he couldn't bear. The moment the severed spirit, which was still some distance away from the dried-up giant, was cut off, everything went black. He completely lost his perception of the outside world. His consciousness remained, but it was as if he was locked in a cage. The surroundings were absolute, eternal darkness. There was no sound, no light, no passage of time. It was as if only he was left in the world. Even the connection with the Saint Embryo and the main body was becoming more and more distant and dim. And the feeling on the Saint Embryo and main body's side was also very peculiar. That wisp of spirit was clearly a part of him, but the feeling of unfamiliarity was growing stronger and stronger. More importantly, the endless loneliness that enveloped the spirit was still slowly eroding along the connection between the main body and the spirit. It was at this time that Li Fan discovered that after being surrounded by darkness, the state of that wisp of spirit seemed to be permanently fixed. It was as if it had solidified, unable to make any movements. It couldn't even commit suicide. Saint Embryo Li Fan's expression changed slightly, and he sent several sword lights towards the spirit's location. He wanted to sever the connection between the spirit and himself. But it was all in vain. Just like when the sword light touched the dried-up giant before, all the attacks disappeared without a trace. After trying several times, he had to give up. He frowned slightly, sensed the degree of erosion of the endless loneliness, and felt a little relieved. The distance in space and time still played a certain limiting role for this extremely mysterious existence. The erosion speed on the main body was very slow. Based on the current situation, it wouldn't threaten the safety of his divine soul within 100 years. And the situation on the Saint Embryo's side was not optimistic because it was too close. It was estimated that it could only last for 30 days before it would be lost. The units of time here are all the absolute time they each experience. However, the situation will continue to improve as I move further away. Although it's still unavoidable, it can buy enough time. As long as I can see the true face of the power that caused this Xuanwang shock, even if I die, it doesn't matter. Moreover, the reason why the main body can sense the spirit is mainly through me. If I disappear, the main body will be safe. With this in mind, Saint Embryo Li Fan stopped being distracted, controlled the remaining stone puppet, and went full speed ahead, constantly rushing towards the depths of the sea of stars. While rapidly flying away, he was also thinking about the mysterious power he had just encountered, the one that enveloped the dried-up giant. The mysterious power was eroding Li Fan, and Li Fan was also taking the opportunity to observe them. This feeling is not unfamiliar. Saint Embryo Li Fan had a flash of inspiration, and he already had a guess in his mind. True Immortal Runes. Another true immortal rune. According to Baihua Daoran's description, the calamities encountered by the various realms in the Dark Star Sea were not the same. Some were annihilation, some were chaos, some were famine. And now, what Saint Embryo Li Fan encountered in the void was actually another kind of true immortal rune that caused a great calamity. Is this isolation, or solitude? Without seeing the entity of the true immortal rune, Li Fan had no way of knowing the truth. He could only speculate based on the external power performance of the true immortal rune. True immortal runes, wreaking havoc on the realms. Although it shouldn't be the true body, but rather a copied existence, it still caused countless immortal cultivation realms in this starry sky to usher in a catastrophe. And among these true immortal runes, the famine rune is even close to the path of the immortals of the immortal ruins. He was inspired by it, sat and comprehended the Tao in the ruins of the immortal realm passage, and tried to comprehend the true meaning of the famine rune. For him, it was probably just a moment of enlightenment. But it created the terrifying existence of the immortal ruins, causing the entire sea of stars to sink. This is the power of immortals above the mortal world. Saint Embryo's thoughts fluctuated, and now, not far ahead, there is actually an existence comparable to the power of the immortal ruins immortal. What exactly is it? There's one more chapter before 1230. 1192. Survivors of Civilization. By comparing the time flow rate with the Xuanwang realm, Holy Embryo Li Fan could roughly judge the distance to his destination. When the time flow ratio between the two sides slowly dropped to 3:1. Holy Embryo Li Fan knew that the unknown existence he was seeking this time was just ahead. On the way forward, in addition to the dried corpse giant, he also encountered some other things from the destroyed ancient cultivation world. Including but not limited to, the corpses of cultivators and the ruins of buildings. Li Fan even picked up some magical treasures that cultivators had used in the past. However, after floating in the void for too long, they had all lost their spirituality and could not be used. But judging from the refining methods of the magical treasures and their external characteristics, they came from various different cultivation worlds. These garbage-like, miscellaneous objects did not seem to be attracted towards the immortal ruins due to some delicate balance between the two forces in the void. Or perhaps they were being pulled towards the depths of the star sea. Instead, they quietly stayed in this place, as if forgotten by the whole world. The further he went, the more garbage there was in the void. They were all fragments of evidence of the existence of different cultivation worlds in the past. Uncertain whether these miscellaneous objects were still stained with the power of true immortal inscriptions, Holy Embryo Li Fan did not dare to touch them. He only controlled the puppet and the sword body, constantly avoiding them. As a result, the speed inevitably slowed down. Fortunately, my guess was correct. The closer I get to the power of the star sea, the weaker the influence of the alone secret technique on me. I have temporarily escaped the danger of being swallowed. However, the power of true immortal inscriptions is not to be underestimated after all. Although he was not completely eroded, Holy Embryo Li Fan also felt various changes in his behavior and thoughts. For example, the idea of avoiding the world and staying away from everything would arise in his mind for no reason. Furthermore, the Black Sword Heavenly Wonder, the foundation of his cultivation in his body, actually produced a faint sense of estrangement from him. From a worldly perspective, this was simply an incredible thing. It should be known that after Holy Embryo Li Fan devoured it and turned it into his own Tao foundation, they were equal to one existence. The person is like the sword, and the sword is like the person. However, the power of true immortal inscriptions could forcibly restore this fusion. A complete loner, lonely, Holy Embryo Li Fan even felt a faint sense of unease in his heart. Would this power of loneliness affect the main body and returning to truth? Although the level of returning to truth was high enough, it couldn't withstand the fact that the main body's strength was currently unsatisfactory. Even if there was only this possibility, this was a risk that Li Fan could not afford. Holy Embryo Li Fan slowly made some decisions in his heart. Even if it wastes this opportunity to explore, I cannot allow the power of loneliness to affect the main body. Before any signs appear, I will end my life in advance. Thinking like this, Holy Embryo Li Fan swallowed the last treasure that nourished his soul, and then activated the soul-burning technique. The speed suddenly soared, and he rapidly shuttled through the gaps in the garbage-filled void. These relics from the ancient cultivation world formed an endless ocean, seemingly without end. The nourishing power in his body had almost been completely consumed, but he still had not been able to break out of this sea. These miscellaneous objects can be preserved. Then, could the fragments of the past cultivation world also be preserved relatively well? Wandering in this ocean of relics, Holy Embryo Li Fan suddenly remembered the actions of Xuanfa and Tianyi transporting fragments of the world from the Star Sea and patching up the Xuanwang realm. Who is it? Just as he was pondering, Li Fan suddenly felt a sense of urgency, because he actually felt a divine sense locking onto him in the void. He shouted loudly and looked towards the source of the lock. The locking sensation disappeared in an instant, and he only saw a blurry figure flashing quickly and disappearing into the darkness. Holy Embryo Li Fan came to the location where the figure had originally appeared with a gloomy face. Not some mysterious and strange existence, but a living person. In the Dark Star Sea, besides the Xuanwang realm, there are actually other surviving cultivation civilizations. Holy Embryo Li Fan was extremely shocked. Not only because he felt the aura of that figure, but also because the other party took the initiative to leave a message. In Li Fan's opinion, it was somewhat inexplicable, a divine sense memorial that only cultivators could use. Bing San, 7th day of Shuo. Ju, Li Fan fell into deep thought looking at these two short sentences. It should be some kind of code. But this cultivation world uses universal characters, definitely a surviving cultivator. Although he had not yet seen the power of the Star Sea that caused the Xuanwang realm to shake on this trip, knowing that there were other sparks of civilization in the Star Sea was of great significance to Li Fan. For so many years, to survive in the Dark Star Sea, in addition to the resources that can guarantee survival, the most important thing is to be able to resist the suction of the immortal ruins. And this place is located at a delicate balance point between the two forces, creating a safe zone. This also shows. Holy Embryo Li Fan's eyes flickered. Looking at the divine sense memorial of the unknown cultivator, he was very cautious and did not reply. The power of the Star Sea that can compete with the immortal ruins did not suddenly appear recently. But because of some change, it suddenly burst out strongly. That's why the Xuanwang realm, far away from the immortal ruins, sensed it. Quote. The figures of immortal ruins and Xuanfa Heavenly Venerate reappeared in front of Li Fan. These two had traveled in the Dark Star Sea for a long time, and obviously could not be unaware of this. Interesting. Because of the power of loneliness, Holy Embryo Li Fan's heart, which had become somewhat indifferent, regained its eagerness after learning about the new sparks of civilization. But it was forcibly suppressed by Li Fan. Even if I haven't contacted them yet, being able to survive in such a harsh environment is obviously not so easy to get along with. Moreover, the laws in the Dark Star Sea are more complete than those in Xuanwang. The upper limit is higher, and these people have been here for so long. Their strength should not be underestimated. However, Li Fan did not worry about the Xuanwang realm. The Xuanwang realm produced monsters frequently, and it was blessed with Xuanfa Heavenly Venerate's new techniques. And the resources in this sea of ruins were scarce. If the two sides really fought, the Xuanwang realm would definitely crush them. I'm overthinking it. The journey is so far away. Without a coincidence, even meeting is a luxury. He temporarily abandoned the idea of caging the two remaining civilizations in the Dark Star Sea to fight. The first problem facing Li Fan now was that his remaining time was running out. Should he continue to move forward into the depths of the Sea of Ruins to find the source of the power of the Star Sea? Or should he try to contact the civilization here? Without much thought, after a brief consideration, Holy Embryo Li Fan made a decision. Choose the latter. They have lived here for a long time, and they must know more about the power of the Star Sea. Instead of running around like a headless fly, it's better to ask someone. Holy Embryo Li Fan's eyes flickered. 1193. Mystery hidden in the abandoned sea. Although he had decided to search for news about the great power of the Star Sea from this other surviving civilization, the Holy Embryo Li Fan did not rush to their door. After all, he had crossed most of the Dark Star Sea, constantly severing his divine soul to resist the erosion of the void black spot disease, and his strength had been greatly weakened. If he failed to gather information and was instead captured alive, wouldn't that be a huge joke? Since a civilization can survive here, there should also be a way to avoid the various strange erosions in the void. I will first lurk in secret, slowly recover my strength, and then make plans. In an instant, Holy Embryo Li Fan had made a plan. First, he pointed towards the center of his brow, setting up a restriction within his already weak divine soul. If anything went wrong, he could self-destruct and instantly dissipate his soul. Only then did Li Fan conceal his figure and begin to explore this ocean of relics. He did not follow the sneaky figure from before, for fear that it was a ploy to lure him in. Holy Embryo Li Fan chose another direction and turned to explore deeper. This void is full of dangers. If there are cultivators hiding, they will definitely need to use formations, restrictions, and the like for protection. I only need to find these auras to follow the clues. My formation skills are several generations ahead of the Xuanwang realm, so I should have no rivals here. That's what Li Fan originally thought. However, after searching the ocean of relics for more than 10 days, he had not found any civilization's aura of formations or anything like that. He didn't even sense a trace of life. To the point where Holy Embryo Li Fan even began to suspect whether the shadow he had encountered before was just his imagination. But he did not give up easily, like a patient hunter, always lurking in the shadows, waiting for his prey to appear. Another 17 days passed, and he finally gained something. A team of 3 cultivators, wearing strange armor, walked back to back, very cautiously. And the way they appeared was indeed somewhat beyond Li Fan's expectations. The positions of those silent relics floating in the void shifted for a while, and then a passage appeared out of thin air. After the 3 of them walked out, those silent relics returned to their original positions, and the passage entrance closed. Li Fan narrowed his eyes, looked around, and took in all the relics of those cultivators nearby. After a moment, he suddenly understood. Wonderful. It's not an isolated formation, but a modification based on these naturally floating relics, almost completely integrated with the surrounding environment. More importantly, Holy Embryo Li Fan slowly approached these floating relics. These objects from the destroyed cultivation world, more or less, are stained with the power of true immortal runes. This forms a natural protection that can shield the perception of cultivators' divine senses to the greatest extent. This is why I searched so hard before, but still didn't find their hiding place, Li Fan instantly understood. In fact, the exquisiteness of this formation is average, but after mixing in and introducing the power of the true immortal runes that led to the destruction of the realms, it suddenly rose more than one level. Even with Li Fan's current level of formation skills, there is no good way to break it. Of course, if he ignored the possible side effects of those relics and wanted to forcibly break the formation, he could still do it. However, this would run counter to his plan to lurk and collect information. Li Fan looked at the entrance to the hidden passage and finally gave up the idea of forcefully breaking in. Instead, he followed behind the 3 people, carefully observing all the way. Apart from wearing strange armor, these 3 cultivators looked no different from the people of the Xuanwang realm. Their trip seemed to be to search for supplies in this ocean of relics. However, the things they needed seemed a little strange to Li Fan. There didn't seem to be any common ground. From fragments of magic weapons to pieces of building ruins, or even some withered bones of cultivators, were all their collection targets. Instead of directly putting them into storage rings, they used a black rope to tie them together and drag them behind them. This scene, Li Fan was slightly stunned. It reminded him of the scene where he used golden chains to transport the world fragments in the void. Could it be that there is some connection between them? After half a day, when the relics tied behind them had reached more than 20 pieces, the three cultivators seemed to have a disagreement. However, under the leadership of the leader, they finally gave up this search. Carrying the supplies, they turned and flew towards the passage entrance. Seeing this, Li Fan quietly followed behind. The range of these three cultivators' outings seemed to have a certain limit, and they were not far from their hiding place. Soon they came to the hidden passage again. I saw that on the armor of one of them, bursts of light suddenly flashed rhythmically. Li Fan sensed that a wonderful rhythmic fluctuation was emitted from the armor. As if touching some kind of mechanism, the surrounding silent relics changed positions rapidly, and a circular entrance quietly appeared. The three cultivators jointly dragged the more than 20 items and flew into it. Li Fan also concealed his figure, wanting to enter together. Unexpectedly, just as he arrived at the passage entrance, an ear-piercing alarm suddenly sounded. Li Fan's heart skipped a beat, and he attached his prepared clone to one of the items. His true body quickly retreated far away. Because of the existence of the clone, the alarm sound did not disappear as holy embryo Li Fan left. The three cultivators looked around nervously, but after not finding any signs of foreign enemies invading, they turned their attention to the items they had collected this time. After a brief discussion, they separated these items and tried to bring them in one by one. Finally found the one with Li Fan's clone attached. Instead of choosing to destroy it, they forcefully threw it towards the depths of the ocean of relics. The source of the threat disappeared, and the warning sound stopped. The three then turned around and returned. Not far away, watching the slowly closing passage entrance, Li Fan finally did not choose to force his way in. A bit interesting, the warning method can actually detect me. With a flash of his eyes, he came to the relic that had been thrown out. Sure enough, there are some oddities. From the surface, the influence of the true immortal runes still remains. But in reality, the attached power is already negligible. For so long, my weak clone has not suffered any harm. Retrieving the clone back into his body, Li Fan picked up the relic and observed it again carefully. It seemed to be a command flag magic weapon, but the flag had rotted, leaving only a bare flagpole. The spirituality is completely lost, and it can no longer exert its original ability. What are they collecting these things for? 1194. The original power of immortals. The material of this command flag magic treasure itself was also quite ordinary. In this sea of relics, it didn't possess any value that would warrant being specially selected. Could it be, for the sake of the true immortal inscription power on it, whose side effects have already faded? Li Fan's heart stirred, and he instantly understood. Gently stroking the command flag, he sensed a familiar aura. The chaos word art. It's just that with the passage of time, even the power of the true immortal inscriptions will eventually reach its end. The complete open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket character instantly appeared in his mind. A moment later, the holy embryo Li Fan's hand, which was holding the command flag, stiffened slightly. Because he discovered that just now, the last trace of power attached to the command flag had completely dissipated. What replaced it was that his comprehension of the open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket word art had subtly deepened. This progress was extremely subtle. However, Li Fan's own understanding of the chaos character was also stuck at the most basic level of imitating a gourd, so it seemed relatively obvious. It was instantly captured by Li Fan. It can actually become material for enlightenment. The holy embryo Li Fan couldn't help but feel a bit shaken. When he looked at the countless floating relics here again, his gaze was distinctly different. But unfortunately, it seems that only relics with true immortal inscription power that is about to dissipate can be used as nourishment for enlightenment. Otherwise, there is a risk of being harmed. The method to distinguish their differences. The holy embryo Li Fan cast his gaze towards that hidden hiding place. For the next half year, Li Fan remained hidden in the shadows. Every time a cultivator went out to collect relics, he would repeat the same method. He sent out a wisp of his divided soul to attach to those collected relics. Firstly, it was to study the way the alarm was triggered, and secondly, it was to obtain any relics with true immortal inscriptions that could aid in enlightenment. Within the Xuanwang world, the doomsday disintegration disk in the main body's sea of consciousness was going all out to analyze the unknown formation. And through the study of the 8 relics he had obtained, the holy embryo Li Fan became even more certain of his judgment. The other surviving civilization in this dark star sea collected these relics in order to study, and even utilize, the power of true immortal inscriptions. They can even distinguish the degree of this power. It seems that the strength here is not to be underestimated. Of these 8 relics, 3 were from open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket, and 2 were from open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket. As for the remaining 2, they were affected by other, currently unknown, true immortal inscriptions. And Li Fan also discovered the differences within them. He had personally seen the original forms of the chaos and hunger true immortal inscriptions. Even if they were imitations written by someone unknown, he had ultimately gained a general understanding of their origins. Therefore, he could very smoothly absorb the remaining power on the enlightenment relics and transform it into nourishment for enlightenment. The situation with the other 2 was very different. Relying solely on the remaining power that was about to dissipate, it was difficult to even sense their properties, let alone comprehend their essence. Utilizing them was more than 10,000 times less efficient than the chaos and hunger characters. This is the difference between going from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Knowing the original true meaning of the true immortal inscriptions allows one to understand everything with a broad perspective. But if one starts from scratch, groping in the dark, slowly exploring and researching, it's as difficult as ascending to heaven, using mortal power to try and explore the power of a true immortal. At the same time, Li Fan was deep in thought. Not all cultivators have enough opportunities to be fortunate enough to personally see the original true meaning of the true immortal inscriptions. The chaos word art is hidden within the reversal maze domain in the white mist, which ordinary people would find difficult to encounter in their entire lives. And the hunger word art is engraved on the immortal ruins. To see it is to die. If I didn't have returned to truth, I wouldn't be able to master it at all. And the open black lens bracket nothingness close black lens bracket word art, I also discovered it by chance in a golden skull in a destroyed small world. Li Fan looked at the unknown civilization hidden in the dark, and a thought naturally emerged. So-called rare goods are worth hoarding. The value of these original true meanings in this civilization may be higher than I imagined. More than 30 days later, the Doomsday Disintegration Disk finally cracked the means to trigger the warning. To be on the safe side, the holy embryo Li Fan did not directly risk his life. Instead, he continued to use his divided soul to test the waters. Although he had severed many divided souls in the past half-year, the vicinity of this civilization's hiding place seemed to contain some kind of strange power. It could resist all kinds of strange intrusions in the void, so the holy embryo Li Fan's recovery speed was also very fast. Severing the divided soul was only a slight pain for him. The Doomsday Disintegration Disk was indeed trustworthy. This time, the relic attached to the divided soul successfully passed the detection and entered the interior of the passage. The sensing became much weaker, but he could barely perceive the situation inside the hiding place. The 3-man team that went out to collect relics continued to move forward, dragging the relics with a black rope. After passing through the detection of 3 channel protections, they finally entered the safe zone. They couldn't wait to take off their armor, complaining repeatedly. There are fewer and fewer useful relics near the immortal ship. We only found so little this time. The next time we carry out a mission, I'm afraid we'll have to leave the safe zone. Have we been staying here for 100 years? I don't know why we haven't moved yet. It is said that there were plans to change the docking location, but some time ago. Shish, it's best not to discuss this. Wu Xing was imprisoned for 10 years because of this. The 3 of them wisely avoided the topic. They took their harvest and continued towards the depths of the hiding place. Immortal ship, Li Fan was thoughtful when he heard their words. After passing through a narrow, dark passage, the field of vision suddenly opened up. It turned out to be a picturesque valley. An old man with white hair, holding a strange magic weapon similar to a book, was waiting for the 3 of them. Let me see this time. The old man originally had a smiling face, but after seeing the number of relics behind the 3, his face immediately darkened. Elder, please forgive us. We really had bad luck this time. Among the 3, the cultivator who looked the oldest said with a wry smile. The old man shook his head, sighed, and ultimately didn't say much. The book magic weapon in his hand emitted a beam of light, enveloping all the relics within. As the beam of light retracted, it seemed to have completed the inspection of the relics. Try to make up for it next time. You know the situation of the immortal ship. If we are short of 1 or 2 items each time, it's okay in the short term. But if it goes on for a long time, won't we all suffer? The old man snorted. The older cultivator didn't refute, only nodding repeatedly. Help me send the relics to open black lens bracket Immortal Severing Tower close black lens bracket. The old man instructed again. 1195. Dark gold three-eyed skull. The three cultivators were slightly stunned upon hearing the old man's request. Elder Go, this doesn't comply with the rules. The old man glanced coldly at them upon hearing this. The three had no choice but to swallow their words. The situation was stronger than them. The eldest cultivator cupped his fist and, with the relics tied to him, left the valley. On the way, Brother Zhao, the immortal ship's laws clearly state that after collecting relics from destroyed worlds, they must be handed over to the immortal hub. Violators will be charged with treason. Now, he wants us to send them to the Immortal Severing Tower. Exactly. Everyone on the immortal ship knows that the Immortal Severing Tower and the Immortal Hub are at odds. That old thing wants to curry favor with the Immortal Severing Tower, but he doesn't want to do it himself and is just ordering us around. If something goes wrong, we're definitely doomed. The eldest cultivator, addressed as Brother Zhao by the other two, also wore an unpleasant expression, but he didn't join in the complaints. Instead, he gestured for them to be quiet. Then, after secretly transmitting something to them, the two became obedient. The three didn't fly through the air. They walked step by step along the path, leaving the valley. The scenery before them suddenly changed, as if they had returned to the starry void. However, this void was not as cold and desolate as the dark star sea outside. Like a gentle breeze, it blew from the void, bringing vibrant life. Faint, colorful starlight could be seen flickering from time to time. In contrast to this harmonious and warm scene, was an incredibly bizarre sight, a towering giant, standing in the void. Its eyes were tightly closed, its whole body shriveled, like a zombie that had been dead for a long time. But its chest rose and fell continuously, its breath bringing warm wind, blowing in all directions. If it were just a dying giant, it would be fine. But what was terrifying was that a thick branch extended from the giant's mouth, tenaciously growing upwards, forming a dense canopy. Looking more closely, the giant's body was pierced through by branches. The giant's lower body had turned into a dense mass of tangled, thread-like roots, swaying in the wind from time to time, like living things. This bizarre scene made one wonder if the tree was parasitizing the human, or if the human had turned into a tree. The three were already used to this scene and merely sighed. It looks like the Pathseeker giant is dying soon. I wonder what the Immortal Hub will come up with next. The Immortal Severing Tower's promises sound better than singing, claiming to completely solve the immortal ship's energy problems. But after so long, they haven't even shown any effective results. Let's wait and see. It's said that this time there really is a revolutionary breakthrough, otherwise that dog elder wouldn't suddenly be so eager to please. The few of them chatted idly. When they left the valley and flew into the void, a touch of green suddenly appeared beneath their feet, forming an aerial path leading to other places. Without needing to fly, this green path itself was moving quickly. Arriving in the void, the overall picture of the immortal ship came into view. Floating continents, like stars in the sky, were scattered everywhere. The giant parasitized by strange trees in the void. From the giant tree, countless green thread-like roads extended, appearing and disappearing, connecting the various continents. Li Fan's divided spirit hid within the world extinction relic, secretly observing all of this. This immortal cultivation civilization, so different from the Xuanwang world, piqued his interest. Immortal ship. Back then, Sun Piaomiao, the old ancestor of the Medicine King sect, traveled beyond the heavens and recorded the beacon information of 12 immortal cultivation worlds. Among them was a giant ship that drifted uncertainly in the void, trading between worlds. Within it was a world of its own, called Xuanshang. I wonder if it has anything to do with this immortal ship. Li Fan looked again at the giant who was constantly being drained, radiating vitality to the surrounding areas, the Pathseeker race. The green, invisible road moved extremely fast in the void. The Zhao-named cultivator and his group soon arrived at the so-called Immortal Severing Tower. A round sphere of dark gold. Upon closer inspection, it was actually built on the remains of a giant. However, this time it wasn't a complete body, but a single, enormous skull. What shocked Li Fan's mind was that in the center of this skull, there was actually an eyeball. The eyeball hadn't lost its vitality with the death of the skull. It was just tightly closed, still subtly rotating. An inexplicable sense of crisis arose in his heart. Li Fan's divided spirit decisively escaped from the world extinction relic he was attached to. He only stayed in the void, not following the three into the immortal severing tower. His judgment was correct. The huge eyeball suddenly opened and scanned around. After finding nothing unusual, it closed again. Only then were the Zhao-named cultivator and his group able to enter the immortal severing tower. Li Fan's divided spirit didn't stare at the three-eyed skull anymore. Instead, he waited patiently for them to return outside the immortal severing tower, in the void. Dark gold skull, 3 eyes. Very similar to the one where I first discovered that nothingness word art. But the one in this immortal ship seems a bit weaker. Bigger doesn't necessarily mean stronger. The dark gold 3-eyed skull Li Fan encountered before, even though the third eyeball was gone and it had purely become a breeding ground for that nothingness word art's grey mold, still gave Li Fan an extremely dangerous feeling. It seemed like it could be resurrected at any time. So Li Fan had always sealed it with 7-colored divine light, not courting death by researching it. Although this 3-eyed skull was even bigger, and even the eyeball was still alive. The feeling it gave Li Fan was that it had completely died and there was no chance of resurrection. This was a mysterious and inexplicable feeling. I haven't seen many things from outside the Xuanwang world in reincarnation. Having only been here for a short time, I've encountered almost all of them. It seems this immortal ship really has some tricks up its sleeve. Without complete world resources, they must obtain what they need for survival from the Dark Star Sea and make the most of everything. It seems the foundation of this immortal ship may be far beyond my imagination. Li Fan's thoughts surged, constantly calculating where to start. From the conversation of those 3 cultivators just now, he learned that the immortal ship seemed to be caught in a power struggle between the immortal hub and the immortal severing tower recently. This situation was welcomed by Li Fan, an outsider. Only in troubled waters can one fish. Find a way to make this immortal ship a little more chaotic. Not long after, the Zhao-named cultivator and his group walked out of the immortal severing tower. Completely opposite to their indignant mood when they came, this time they all wore joyful expressions, their eyes filled with suppressed excitement. Standing on the green, invisible road, they didn't start discussing enthusiastically until they reached the center of the void. I didn't expect the immortal severing tower to really find a way to utilize the power of world extinction. There are endless relics in the void. Now we really don't have to worry about running out of energy. Now we can watch the show. 1196. Destroy the soul invisibly. Yes, the Celestial Pivot Institute has always opposed the research of world-destroying power and has been fiercely suppressing it for many years. I don't know how many cultivators have become nourishment for the open black lens bracket divine tree close black lens bracket because of this. If it weren't for the fact that they really couldn't hold on in recent years, I don't think they would have compromised. Thinking about it this way, the Immortal Severing Tower has made such great progress in only 500 years. The Celestial Pivot Institute has been in power for nearly 10,000 years, yet it has been mediocre and unproductive, causing the Immortal Boat to deteriorate day by day, getting worse and worse. The Celestial Pivot Institute really deserves to die. The sky of the Immortal Boat is about to change. We brothers should make plans early. Maybe we can take this opportunity to shed our guilty status. The 3 looked at each other, and they all saw the ambition in each other's hearts. However, the whispers stopped in the empty, uninhabited void. When they returned to the original valley, they became taciturn again, looking indignant. After reporting back to Elder Go, they came to live in the wooden house in the valley. There were a total of 100 cultivators living here. Every once in a while, some of them would go outside the Immortal Boat to collect world-destroying relics. The people of the Immortal Boat seemed extremely afraid of the Dark Star Sea outside, and they looked uneasy every time they performed a mission. And the matter of collecting relics did indeed have a high casualty rate. It wasn't that they suffered any real harm in the Star Sea outside the Immortal Boat, but every time they went out, the lifespan of the Immortal Boat people seemed to be greatly reduced. This cultivator surnamed Zhao Tianzhong, had noticeably deeper wrinkles on his face after going out twice. No wonder I haven't seen any young cultivators here, they are all middle-aged and elderly people, Li Fan realized. The 100 or so people in the valley didn't cultivate on weekdays. Besides having to undertake the task of going out to collect relics, they didn't have to do anything else. From their daily chats, Li Fan also collected a lot of information about the Immortal Boat. This valley was called Open Black Lens Bracket Sin Suppression Valley Close Black Lens Bracket by them, and it was a place of exile for cultivators who had violated the laws of the Immortal Boat but whose crimes did not warrant death. Collecting world-destroying relics was to eliminate the sins on their bodies. When they completed their meritorious service, they could leave this place and return to a normal life. From their hopeful words, Li Fan glimpsed the daily life of the Immortal Boat people. All matters, large and small, on the Immortal Boat were under the jurisdiction of the Open Black Lens Bracket Celestial Pivot Institute Close Black Lens Bracket. Ordinary Immortal Boat people didn't have to worry about survival, and the Celestial Pivot Institute would provide a fixed amount of survival resources every year. But it was just enough to meet their survival needs. On the Immortal Boat, there were strict controls on the total population and the number of cultivators. Not only did giving birth to the next generation require approval, but even cultivation had a fixed number of places. In addition to obtaining cultivation qualifications through lottery, it could also be obtained by making outstanding contributions to the Immortal Boat, such as going out to salvage world-destroying relics. In this Sin Suppression Valley, the vast majority of people had no cultivation. That's why they had great fear of going out. As mortals, they could move freely and remain immortal in the Dark Star Sea because of the Celestial Pivot Institute's secret immortal armor they wore when performing tasks. In addition to ensuring their own safety, it could also identify which relics were qualified and could be exchanged for merit. As for what the Celestial Pivot Institute wanted these world-destroying relics for, these bottom-level Immortal Boat people naturally wouldn't know. It seems that this Immortal Boat is even more severely divided than the Xuanwang realm. The information that can be gathered by staying here is limited. I have to find a way to leave this place. His current power of a wisp of divine sense was too weak to withstand the slightest consumption. It was almost impossible to cross the Immortal Boat void on his own. And the kind of green invisible road in the void would only appear after permission was obtained. Usually, those who attempted to approach the void would only be smashed to pieces and turned into nourishment for the Immortal Boat. So Li Fan's divine sense had been lurking, waiting for an opportunity. However, what he didn't expect was that the opportunity didn't come, but he waited for a disaster. The cause was that Zhao Tianzhong and the other two people lurking nearby suddenly fell ill. At first, Zhao Tianzhong only thought that he was a little tired and lay in bed for several days in a row. Later, he couldn't fall asleep at all, and began to feel itchy all over and restless. Zhao Tianzhong seemed to have remembered something, and endless fear surged in his eyes. However, he didn't tell others about it. He even suppressed his discomfort and showed his face in front of everyone a few times, and took the initiative to apply for another trip to collect relics. Until later, he kept coughing, and black spots began to appear on the surface of his skin, and the smell of blood began to spread, and the matter was finally unable to be concealed. Alas! His days are numbered, so let's send him back early to reunite with his family. It's really impermanent. Old Zhao was considered to be the best physique among us, but he still couldn't avoid being infected with the strange disease of the void. He even concealed his physical condition for a while, just to save more merit points for his little Zhao before he died. Everyone sighed and showed a rabbit-dead fox sad expression. Elder Go didn't have any emotional fluctuations, he just handled things officially and sent Zhao Tianzhong away. Soon the Immortal Boat sent someone to Sin Suppression Valley to take Zhao Tianzhong's place. After Zhao Tianzhong died, the other two cultivators who were with him also had symptoms and died tragically shortly after. In Sin Suppression Valley, everyone sighed that they were unlucky. However, only Li Fan knew that they had died one after another from the so-called strange disease of the void because Li Fan's divine sense had been lurking around for a long time. The bodies of these Immortal Boat people, so fragile, they can't even withstand the slightest bit of void aura carried by my divine sense. If my main body comes in, wouldn't it be a devastating source of infection? Li Fan was a little speechless. It was not his intention to take the lives of 3 people. It was just that he had crossed most of the Dark Star Sea and stayed in the void for too long. I'm afraid his divine soul had already been contaminated with some mysterious power in the void. Although his divine soul was strong and not afraid of the infection of these mysterious forces. But these fragile Immortal Boat people might not be able to say for sure. In Sin Suppression Valley, it seemed like 10 years were like one day. The entire Immortal Boat also seemed like a pool of stagnant water, without any fluctuations. The opportunity Li Fan's divine sense was waiting for had not come. Until this day, Elder Go, who had always been unsmiling, suddenly changed his face. He called out all the personnel of Sin Suppression Valley and pulled them all outside the valley, as if waiting for some big shot to arrive. The people in the valley were uneasy, and Li Fan's divine sense sensed from afar that a powerful aura was approaching rapidly. A Tao integration realm, more than that, but it doesn't have the oppressive feeling of the longevity realm. There is also a trace of true immortal seal script power mixed in. 1197. Solely sneak into the immortal boat. It's the word open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket. Sensing the faint fluctuations coming from the immortal boat's core formation cultivator not far away, Li Fan's clone quickly made a judgment. He didn't approach closely, but stayed in the wooden house to observe. Elder Yan, Elder Go, who usually wore a stern face, was now bowing and scraping, utterly obsequious. The others in the valley cursed inwardly, but dared not show it, even lowering their heads, not daring to look directly at the core formation cultivator before them. After all, in the eyes of mortals, a core formation cultivator was almost no different from a legendary immortal. Go Liang, I heard that the town of Sin Valley has suffered 5 deaths in quick succession recently. Elder Yan asked in a deep voice. Go Liang's body trembled, and he replied repeatedly, that is indeed the case. But it was just that those few sinners were unlucky. They only went out to work 2 or 3 times before their conditions worsened and they died. The town of Sin Valley itself hasn't had any major problems. HMPH. What luck, a flash of cold light passed through Elder Yan's eyes, but he didn't explain further. His vast divine sense instantly enveloped the entire town of Sin Valley. As expected, this place has already been contaminated. Elder Yan's expression instantly turned gloomy. A point of starlight appeared at his fingertip, and then he pointed it remotely towards Li Fan's clone, towards the residential area of the town of Sin Valley. Endless light and heat destroyed everything in the area. Outside the immortal boat, Li Fan, the nascent soul, who was hiding and comprehending in seclusion, slightly raised his head. As expected of a civilization that has been able to survive in the dark star sea for so long, they are so cautious. It seems that if I want to sneak in, I have to solve the problem of being a major source of infection. Otherwise, no matter how well I hide, causing a large number of deaths around me will expose me. My divine soul has been in the dark star sea for too long. The accumulated problems are too deep to remedy. I still need to cut out a wisp of divine soul to lurk. With the previous experience, I can do it this way. For the next 2 months, no immortal boat people went out to collect world-extinguishing relics. But for the almost endless relics outside, it was clear that they would not give up. So Li Fan finally waited for a new collection team. Following his previous experience, Li Fan's clone mixed in with the relics and entered the immortal boat. Only this time, the immortal boat was noticeably more cautious in handling the relics. When they were with the relics, the immortal boat cultivators always wore armor. After transporting the relics to a sealed space, a blurry talisman phantom appeared above the space after they left. The talisman emitted a faint light, illuminating the dozen or so relics below. Although Li Fan's clone was also bathed in the light, it was not affected in any way. He only watched as the power of the true immortal seal characters on the surrounding relics, which was about to dissipate, was absorbed into the talisman phantom above through this dreamlike light. Li Fan's clone even felt that the various mysterious forces surrounding him were being absorbed by the talisman. Before long, the power attached to the dozen or so relics here completely disappeared. They truly turned into worthless garbage in the star sea. The talisman flashed and left this space. The immortal boat's utilization of the true immortal seal character's power is even higher than I imagined. This space was completely sealed, and Li Fan's clone couldn't escape. But he wasn't in a hurry either. Someone would definitely come to deal with the remaining garbage. As he expected, 2 days later, 2 chi refining cultivators walked in, led by a Foundation establishment cultivator. Move all these things onto the ship. Be careful, although the world-extinguishing power of these things is gone, they are still genuine antiques. The fact that they have been able to survive in the star sea for so long shows that their materials are very unusual. Send them all to the open black lens bracket star forging workshop close black lens bracket, maybe they can be recycled. The Foundation establishment cultivator instructed. The 2 chi refining cultivators were only 15 or 16 years old. They looked like they were inexperienced. Li Fan's clone pondered for a moment and attached himself to one of them. Following the 3, he left the sealed space, took a small flying boat, and arrived at the so-called open black lens bracket star forging workshop close black lens bracket. It was a closed ring-shaped building made of an unknown white metal. In the center of the ring was a blazing fireball. The terrifying heat waves constantly churning on the surface of the fireball spoke of the enormous energy contained within. Faintly, one could see wisps of flame being sucked into a small hole in the ring-shaped building from time to time. The one in charge of reception in the star forging workshop was not an ordinary human, but a strange being, half human, half beast, with a red body, 2 horns on its head, and a long tail dragging behind it. The three seemed very afraid of it. After putting down the things, they couldn't wait to drive the flying boat away. After some tossing and turning, they finally returned to their residence, located in the so-called open black lens bracket Dow Proving Academy close black lens bracket, which was also a separate continent floating in the void. The academy was towering, piercing straight into the clouds. They came to the lower level of the academy to report back to their master. The three's master was a nascent soul cultivator named Zhao Wuji, who was already white-haired. Seeing the three returning, he put away the book magic tool he was reading and asked with a kind expression, "Has everything been done?" The three lowered their heads and replied, "Reporting to master, everything has been properly handled." "Do you know why I asked you to make this special trip?" Zhao Wuji asked again. The three were stunned, not knowing how to answer. Not long ago, the town of Sin Valley was razed to the ground. The survivors in the valley were all taken away and quarantined for observation. It is said that the cause of the incident was the unregulated work of the town of Sin Valley in collecting relics, which caused the spread of open black lens bracket world extinguishing power close black lens bracket. Hey, this process was set by the Immortal Pivot Institute, and it has been like this for the past millennium. Even if there are occasional mistakes, it has never caused major trouble. But this time it has caused such a big commotion. Zhao Wuji suddenly stopped speaking. At this time, the Foundation establishment cultivator among the three suddenly realized, Master is saying that the Immortal Severing Pavilion is taking the opportunity to make things difficult. Not bad. Zhao Wuji showed a look of being teachable, not only the town of Sin Valley. Next, all the spheres of influence of the Immortal Pivot Institute within the Immortal Boat will usher in the impact of the Immortal Severing Pavilion. The Immortal Pivot Institute has been in power for too long, and those who covet the Immortal Boat's leadership have been waiting for too long. Zhao Wuji sighed slightly. Zhao Wuji's three disciples all had different expressions upon hearing this. The Foundation establishment disciple's eyes rolled, as if he was calculating something. One of the two chi refining disciples lowered his head and carefully pondered his master's words. And the other one, who was also the one possessed by Li Fan's clone, didn't care at all. His mind was wandering, seemingly in a daze. 1198. The Immortal Boat is split into two. Zhao Xian. Seeing this, Zhao Wuji let out a cold snort. Zhao Xian immediately snapped back to his senses. Tell me, what does the conflict between the Duan Xian Lu and the Xian Shu Yuan have to do with me assigning you this mission? Zhao Wuji asked, narrowing his eyes. Master, this is you making a statement and showing goodwill. This is the first time the Duan Xian Lu has collected relics since taking over Zhenzui Valley. Everyone is watching to see how the Duan Xian Lu's new methods compare to the Xian Shu Yuan's long-standing traditions. Sending away useless relics for recycling. This is something that could be done easily, yet Master specifically sent us to do it ourselves. This is both to show the Duan Xian Lu your stance, Master, and to explain the situation to the forces outside who are watching. Zhao Xian said listlessly. Zhao Wuji nodded repeatedly, very satisfied with Zhao Xian's analysis. However, seeing the other party's indifferent expression, he still couldn't help but feel angry. Just as he was about to say something, Zhao Xian proactively interrupted. Master, I truly don't understand. The Immortal Boat is already in this state, so why can't we unite? Instead, we still have to fight each other to the death. Zhao Wuji's expression changed, and he waved his hand to prevent his disciple's voice from leaking out. You wretched disciple, am I wrong? Zhao Xian tilted his neck, showing no fear at all. A ruler suddenly appeared in Zhao Wuji's hand, raised high, about to land on Zhao Xian's head. But in the end, he didn't strike hard. Shaner, you don't understand. This Zan Xian Zhou must have, and can only have, one helmsman. The tragedy years ago already showed the terrible consequences of the highest decision-makers being unable to unify. Zhao Wuji sighed deeply. Hearing this, Zhao Xian also looked downcast and stopped refuting. You may leave now. Zhao Wuji suddenly lost interest. Don't go out recently, just cultivate honestly in the academy. Since Master has already taken a side, all we need to do is wait for them to decide the victor. Even if the Duan Xian Lu truly loses, the Xian Shuyuan wouldn't dare do anything to our Zhen Dao Shui Gong. At most, they'll just reduce some resource allocation. The three disciples obeyed and left, returning to their respective residences. Zhen Dao Shui Gong, the name was quite imposing. However, Zhao Xian's living quarters were a bit too simple. It didn't look like a place for cultivators to rest at all, just a single room barely enough to live in. The only thing worth mentioning was that the spiritual energy concentration in the room was significantly higher than in other areas of the Immortal Boat. It was sufficient for cultivation below the Golden Core stage. Closing the door, he skillfully sealed it with a restriction. A trace of excitement flashed in Zhao Xian's eyes as he rummaged under the bed and found a book-like magical artifact. Just as he was about to use it, he suddenly fell unconscious. Li Fan's split consciousness slowly revealed itself. He took the book artifact. It's similar to the Tianzan mirror, connecting to the Immortal Boat's information network, and you can also use contributions from the Academy to exchange for corresponding resources. However, it's limited to within the Zhen Dao Shui Gong and cannot connect to other areas of the Immortal Boat. Li Fan shook his head and tossed the so-called Wan Wen Lu aside. Then, he turned into a wisp of green smoke and infiltrated Zhao Xian's consciousness. However, how could a qi refining stage youth resist Li Fan's prying? Before long, all of Zhao Xian's secrets from childhood to the present were seen clearly by Li Fan. Although Zhao Xian had the same surname as Zhao Wuji, they had no blood relation. The reason Zhao Wuji was quite fond of Zhao Xian was entirely because of Zhao Xian's decent cultivation talent. He had only been at Zhen Dao Shui Gong for a year and was already in the late qi refining stage. This cultivation speed, while not worth mentioning at all in the Zanhuang realm, was already considered outstanding on this Immortal Boat. Cultivation resources on the Immortal Boat were limited, and even Zhen Dao Shui Gong was struggling, only able to prioritize supplying disciples with exceptional talent. At the end of every 3 academic years, there would be a bottom-ranking elimination. Those who fell behind in progress had to leave the academy, either returning home and choosing to be a rogue cultivator, or accepting assignments from the Xian Shuyuan to hold positions in various places on the Immortal Boat. It was precisely this cruel elimination system that allowed Zhen Dao Shui Gong to constantly maintain its advantage and vitality. Not only were disciples eliminated, but cultivators like Zhao Wuji, who were in the nascent soul stage, also faced great pressure. If the disciples they taught performed poorly, it meant they lacked teaching talent. If their background wasn't strong, they would have to leave their teaching positions and take on other relatively dangerous duties. This was also the reason why the atmosphere throughout Zhen Dao Shui Gong was very oppressive. Everyone didn't know when they would be forced to leave this place. However, this Zhao Xian was an exception. Perhaps it was his nature, but he didn't have much obsession with staying at Zhen Dao Shui Gong. He even lacked much enthusiasm for cultivation. Outsiders all thought that reaching the late qi refining stage in 1 year was the result of his diligent cultivation. Only he himself knew that this was just the result of his sporadic effort, putting in hardly any energy. Zhao Xian's greatest interest was searching for strange tales and anecdotes in the Wan Wen Lu. About the origin of the Immortal Boat, everything about the ancient cultivation world, about the endless star sea outside the Immortal Boat. He was full of interest in all of it. Li Fan carefully read his experiences and observations over the past year. Not only through the Wan Wen Lu but also by consulting the Academy elders. In ancient times, the Immortal Boat was still intact. However, due to suddenly suffering a catastrophe in the Star Sea realm and internal strife, the Immortal Boat broke apart into 2 sections. One was named Zan and the other was named Shang. This one is the Zan Xian Zhou. Quote. After a pause, Li Fan continued to look down. For a long time after the Immortal Boat broke, it was a chaotic era, drifting aimlessly in the Star Sea, completely out of control. The population also plummeted at that time, with almost 9/10 dying during that period. Until the Immortal Boat finally stabilized, it appeared within this sea of relics. And has never left since. Although it can move within a small range, it is powerless to break free from the constraint of the powerful force outside the relics. Quote. Looking at how the people of the Immortal boat named that suction force, Li Fan instantly fell into deep thought. Echoing star force. What does the word, echoing, mean? Zhao Xian was merely a qi refining cultivator. Knowing this much was already the result of his persistent pestering of the Academy elders. The source of the echoing star force was indeed not something he could know. Li Fan could only temporarily suppress his doubts. He began to think about the next step in his plan. The split consciousness was too weak, only by letting the saint embryo enter could he have enough room to act. The only thing that needed to be resolved was the residual power of the true immortal seal script. Li Fan instantly thought of the talisman used by the Duan Xian Lu earlier. 1199. The Golden Pill of the Primordial Chaos is completed combined chapter. That talisman seems to be able to absorb the power of wandering true immortal inscriptions. It should be usable as a cover. However, it is the first time that the Severed Immortal building has revealed such a method. Even in this Dao Proving Academy, which is known as the source of Immortal Boat Dao techniques, there are no related records. Li Fan's distracted gaze instantly fell on Zhao Xian, who was sound asleep. The profound Immortal Boat has a strict hierarchy. Many people never even leave the continent they are on in their entire lives. A strong fortress still needs to be breached from the inside. A wisp of Li Fan's consciousness gently touched Zhao Xian's forehead. In a daze, Zhao Xian seemed to have a very long dream. In the dream, the Severed Immortal building and the Immortal Pivot Institute fought for a long time without a clear winner. The struggle became increasingly fierce, and the methods became more and more extreme, eventually leading to a devastating disaster. The Immortal boat crashed into the depths of the Sea of Relics and vanished into smoke. No one on the Immortal boat survived, including Zhao Xian himself. Awakened from the nightmare, the usually optimistic Zhao Xian was unable to recover for a long time, his face pale. The dream was too real. Zhao Xian could still remember some of the details clearly, giving him the illusion that he had returned to the past. In the dream, 10 years later, the Immortal boat salvage team found a treasure called La Derivation Jade in the Sea of Relics, which could deduce different cultivation methods at any time, and even deduce them directionally according to conditions. The Severed Immortal building and the Immortal Pivot Institute fought fiercely over the ownership of the La Derivation Jade. In the end, it was temporarily kept by our Dao Proving Academy. Although the Academy has gained an unimaginable number of cultivation methods during this period, it also laid the groundwork for future disasters. As an elite disciple of the Academy, I was fortunate enough to study some of these cultivation methods in my dream. Open double angle bracket ocean stabilizing divine sword close double angle bracket. Zhao Xian subconsciously began to circulate the contents of the cultivation method from his dream. A moment later, his expression suddenly changed. How is this possible? Zhao Xian recalled even more profound cultivation methods. Open double angle bracket Tai Kong Zheng metal sword Qi close double angle bracket, open double angle bracket Heavenly Emperor Qi cannon close double angle bracket, open double angle bracket 2 Qi illuminating divine all heavens extinction art close double angle bracket, open double angle bracket limitless heavenly pivot separation divine art close double angle bracket. One after another, world-shaking, unparalleled masterpieces emerged in his mind. Every word and sentence was clear and distinct. The circulation of qi brought about by silently reciting these cultivation method statements also made Zhao Xian realize that these were not just figments of his imagination but genuine supreme divine arts. Let alone me, even the entire Dao Proving Academy couldn't deduce these cultivation methods. Zhao Xian's heart pounded wildly. Could it be that I really traveled from the future back to the past? For a full half-day, Zhao Xian was unable to accept this reality. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't figure out why such a bizarre thing would happen to him. Since he couldn't figure it out, he stopped thinking about it. Zhao Xian's thoughts quickly focused on the ending of the Immortal boat's destruction in his dream. If that is true, I must change all of this. Zhao Xian subconsciously clenched his fists. Having experienced too many cruel things in his dream, the young Zhao Xian had become much more stable. He didn't habitually use the myriad record to search for solutions, because he knew that every speech and browsing trace he made was under the surveillance of the Dao Proving Academy. The destruction of the Immortal boat is too terrifying. I can't tell others about it, not even my master. And I must never let the Dao Proving Academy, an organization that will be completely destroyed in future struggles, know about it, otherwise, no one can guarantee that they won't take even more extreme actions, or even cause the Immortal boat to be destroyed ahead of time. Zhao Xian paced back and forth in the room, his mind racing. Since the Great Dream, he seemed to feel that his thinking had become much more flexible. Master is right, the immortal boat must have, and can only have, one helmsman. But the contradiction between the severed Immortal building and the Immortal Pivot Institute is irreconcilable. If they are allowed to fight internally, the destruction of the Immortal boat is inevitable. The best way is to cut the Gordian knot and allow one side to gain an overwhelming advantage in a short period of time. Zhao Xian's eyes flickered. Although the memory of some of the personnel details in the dream is already blurred, the memory of future cultivation methods and secret techniques is very clear. With these materials that are decades ahead, I have the confidence to help one side unify the Immortal boat. As for who to help, after slowly recalling the actions and governing philosophies of the two major organizations in the dream, Zhao Xian finally decided to choose the severed Immortal building. Now that the severed Immortal building is just beginning to emerge, it is in need of people. As long as I show a little talent, I can easily sneak in. My current strength is still too weak and needs to be improved as soon as possible. Fortunately, I now have too many magical cultivation methods in my mind. As long as there are enough resources, breaking through two major realms within a year is not a problem. Zhao Xian closed his eyes and meditated, ready to shock the Tao Proving Academy after leaving seclusion. What he didn't notice was that beside him, a faint, almost invisible figure was gazing at him. This figure was naturally Li Fan's wisp of consciousness. Without the limitation of cultivation methods not being able to be practiced together, the countless cultivation methods I have seen in the past can all be used to their greatest value here. Compared to the treacherous Xuanwang world, this Immortal boat is truly a paradise. Li Fan, who was restrained everywhere in the Xuanwang world, was now creating waves on the profound Immortal boat, and instead had a sense of hearty satisfaction that his unique skills could be used to the fullest. Traveling across most of the Sea of Stars, encountering the profound Immortal boat civilization hidden in the Sea of Relics, and finally finding a breakthrough and lurking in. The nascent soul Li Fan spent a total of about a year in this process. And because the flow rate of each area of the Sea of Stars is different, in the Xuanwang world, only less than half a year has actually passed. In half a year, the Myriad Immortals Alliance had recovered from the great shock of the Xuanwang world that day. The twisted white mist barriers between heaven and earth had also returned to their original state. The memories of cultivators about that disaster were also slowly becoming blurred. Everything seemed to have returned to the starting point. And in the Xuanwang world's affiliated small world, the Holy Dynasty of Great Qi, the changes in the past 6 months can be described as rapid. Rapid is not only an adjective, but a spectacle that can truly compete with the sun and moon has appeared in the sky of the Holy Dynasty of Great Qi. That is, more and more shining stars with 5 blurred halos as the center. Even during the day, it is clearly visible. And at night, it completely suppresses the original starlight of Daki. Folklore says that the 5 halos symbolize the 5 personal disciples of His Majesty the Holy Emperor. The stars that appear around the halo in turn represent the many talents emerging from Daki. This rumor is not groundless, but has sufficient basis. Just 3 days ago, all the people of Daki witnessed a shining star near the halo in the sky suddenly burst out with 1,000 times the usual light. Then, it transformed into a beam of light, shooting straight towards the Holy Emperor's throne in Holy Capital City. The phenomenon lasted for nearly half a day before the light pillar piercing the heavens and earth dissipated without a trace. After this, people also realized with surprise that the star in the sky had also disappeared, descending to the mortal realm. Even a disciple of the Holy Emperor could trigger such a spectacle, so what about the Holy Emperor himself? Following the Holy Emperor's martial performance half a year ago, which caused world turmoil, people once again sparked discussions and speculations about the Holy Emperor's immense power. Of course, this was only done in private. Throughout the Great Qi Holy Dynasty, the worship and trust in the Holy Emperor had reached an almost terrifying level of unified will. At this moment, the unparalleled Holy Emperor in the hearts of the Great Qi people was frowning, staring at a white-haired youth sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Contrary to popular legends, after the beam of light, said to be a general star appearing in the world, descended from the sky 3 days ago, Holy Emperor Li Ping not only did not feel any joy. Instead, he felt not only astonishment but also anger and vigilance. Because he immediately discovered the truth of the light beam, one of the giant pocket dimensions outside the 5 elements pocket dimension, painstakingly transported by Taoist Baihua to outside the Great Qi minor world to serve as a means of dragging the world to move rapidly in the void. had exploded, and the culprit of this incident was in Great Qi, in this holy capital city. Yet Li Ping, before this, had been completely unaware of this matter. How could Li Ping, who prided himself on being the heaven-ordained holy emperor, accept this? In the past 6 months, taking advantage of the myriad Immortals alliance being busy quelling disasters and pacifying the people, Taoist Baihua had worked day and night without rest, fiercely transporting some pocket dimensions from the Xuanwang realm to this place. Perhaps it was because the Star Sea's great power had shaken the Xuanwang realm that Baihua found it much easier to transport these pocket dimensions. Even so, half a year of sleepless work had left Baihua nearly exhausted. Unable to hold on any longer, he hid in the 5 elements pocket dimension to recover. He never expected that the disaster of the pocket dimension being blown up would occur. Taoist Baihua's expression was extremely ugly, and he couldn't care less about recovering from his injuries. He immediately ran out of the 5 elements pocket dimension. And Li Fan had already locked onto the real culprit at this time. Before he could even launch an attack, a single sentence from Shangren Yin caused him to turn from surprise to joy, and all anger vanished. Someone has successfully cultivated the primordial golden core. Even the Holy Emperor, upon hearing Shangren Yin's words, couldn't help but feel a violent tremor in his heart and momentarily lose his composure. The primordial golden core, as a realm after building foundation with myself, is a link in the new law, an important component of Li Ping's plan to subvert the heavenly venerate system. This first step is especially difficult to take. Once taken, it will surely bring about many unimaginable changes. When Li Ping summoned Shangren Yin to Great Qi to study the new law, he didn't really have high expectations in his heart. It was entirely a try-and-see attitude. After all, the heavenly venerate new law system had stood firm for 10,000 years. How could it be so easy to destroy its foundation? Li Ping anticipated that the derivation of the new law would be calculated in units of at least 10 or 100 years. He never expected that after only half a year, Shangren Yin would give him a great surprise. At the same time, Li Fan felt doubts and vigilance arising in his heart. He didn't start asking questions, but instead shifted his gaze from the black-haired youth to Shangren Yin, waiting for his explanation. Shangren Yin ignored Li Ping, only looking at the youth who was cultivating with fascination, praising him incessantly. The aura of the world. Li Ping's gaze narrowed slightly. The black-haired youth gave him a strange feeling. He was indeed one of the several children who cultivated by building foundation with themselves, and now he had indeed completed the breakthrough in realm. The erratic and elusive fluctuations of power made Li Ping feel a little difficult to figure out. However, the youth's vitality was too weak. It was not at all like the vigorous state of flourishing after breaking through a realm, but rather like a flickering candle in the wind, precarious. It seemed that the next second, his life would completely disappear. After a long time, watching the black-haired youth reveal a painful expression, Shangren Yin sighed, to seize the creation of the world with one's body. How difficult it is. Although he has achieved the primordial golden core, he suffers backlash. If he cannot withstand it, he will only die and his Tao will be extinguished. Li Ping automatically skipped the second half of the sentence, focusing on the first half of Shangren Yin's words. To seize the creation of the world with one's body. Is this the key to cultivating the primordial golden core? Li Ping asked. Shangren Yin was silent for a while before answering. You have also seen the situation. It is indeed a breakthrough, but the risk involved is almost certain death. The new law should not take such a path. Shangren Yin told Li Fan about the process of comprehending the primordial golden core under this accidental opportunity. What is primordial? Building foundation with myself is to build the foundation of cultivation with a complete self. People are in the world. If they want to go further, they need to seek answers from the world and the heavens and earth. To seize the creation of the world with one's body is not like the new law of preaching, which directly devours the heavens and earth. Although the actual effect is almost the same. Shangren Yin suddenly said, his words abruptly stopping. Looking up at the afterimage of the pocket dimension that had disappeared in the sky, Shangren Yin continued, achieving primordial is not about seizing specific matter or energy, but about seizing the creation of the world. The great Tao is 50, and the heavenly deduction is 49. Because of the one that escaped, the world has extra variables, so the heavens and earth can still have infinite vitality after countless years. But if you take away the one that escaped, the beam of light in the heavens and earth just now is their fate. Of course, there is also a part of my intervention. If there is no external force, I am afraid it will take nearly 100 years for the changes to appear. I am helping this child, otherwise, with the body of building foundation, trying to greedily seize the heavens and earth, even if it is just a pocket dimension, his consciousness will be lost in the struggle of the pocket dimension world. Shangren Yin looked at Li Ping, with no intention of apologizing. To think of what I cannot think of, this kid is indeed remarkable. From Shangren Yin's words, Li Ping also vaguely understood the so-called primordial golden core. As the master of the great Qi world, having observed and contacted many minor worlds more closely, he could better understand the meaning of Shangren Yin's words. The world is like the human body. This idea of seizing the creation of the world to achieve one's own primordial golden core is indeed feasible. It's just. Li Ping pondered for a moment, then secretly shook his head and denied it. This step is too big. To swallow the world with a human body. Even I may not be able to do it. The new law should be a universal law that everyone can cultivate. 1200. The Saint Master passes on the way. Just as Li Ping was conversing with Superior Shangren, the black-haired youth who had comprehended a path to the Hongyuan Golden Elixir, was rapidly weakening in his life signs, eventually losing all traces of a living being. Yet, he did not die. The black-haired youth remained seated, his physical and spiritual energies operating autonomously. Majestic, profound. Alas, he couldn't hold on. He has completely assimilated with the cave heaven's consciousness and lost his own self. Superior Shangren sighed, his face filled with regret. His original strength was too weak, and the target he chose was not quite right. If he had chosen the slightly smaller cave heaven next to it, he might have had a chance to survive. Li Ping's gaze also lingered on the black-haired youth, not leaving for a long time. What's his name? Ku Wenshan. A good name, but there's still one thing I don't understand. Li Ping's voice echoed in the empty chamber. Is it really possible to seize the creation of a cave heaven with a foundation establishment cultivation? The vanished cave heaven was called Abyssal Wasteland. Although it doesn't seem large from Great Qi, the scale of the Abyssal Wasteland is almost half the size of Great Qi's small world. Perhaps this kid is just exceptionally talented. After a long silence, Superior Shangren couldn't come up with a better explanation and could only answer that way. You have to understand that people are different. Some things that seem impossible for us to accomplish are merely casual tasks in the eyes of others. The path of Hongyuan Golden Elixir that Ku Wenshan pioneered, although destined to be followed by only a small number of people, has given me inspiration. Superior Shangren looked at Li Ping, his expression turning solemn. You're right, if we want to completely dismantle the dominant position of the new cultivation method, our new method is destined not to be a niche, difficult path. The reason why the cultivation method of the past was able to spread like wildfire, instantly sweeping across the entire Xuanwang, and continue unabated despite the suppression of the 10 sects, eventually replacing the old ways, wasn't it because it had almost no threshold? Everyone can cultivate, that's the attribute that the new method should have. I've been thinking, the reason why Ku Wenshan was able to break through his realm on the basis of foundation establishment with myself is because he sees the creation of the cave heaven world. Reasoning backward, the creation of the world should be the most crucial factor of the Hongyuan Golden Elixir. Superior Shangren's speech became faster and faster, and his expression became somewhat excited. Without relying on external objects, everyone can cultivate the creation of the world. Combining these three necessary conditions, we can glimpse the vision of the truly ideal Hongyuan Golden Elixir. Superior Shangren waved his hand, and illusory images of childish faces appeared before the two. Seizing the creation of the world is not for the creation itself, but for the evolution of creation. The creation of the world is a mysterious and difficult existence for ordinary people to understand. Only through the path of devouring can they forcibly occupy it, transform it into a part of themselves, and then slowly comprehend it. But if there is a supreme sage teacher who imparts his understanding of the world's creation in meticulous detail, I think, even a young child can understand its principles. Superior Shangren said firmly. Seeing Li Ping's somewhat disbelieving gaze, he said, how complex and unbelievable does the foundation establishment with myself method seem to outsiders. But for the children I teach, who have been exposed to it since they were young and in whose minds this is the only cultivation method in the world, it is not so difficult to learn. Especially when the first foundation establishment with myself succeeds, it's as if a bottleneck has been broken, and successes occur one after another. Foundation establishment with myself is like this, so is the Hongyuan Golden Elixir. What's more, the new method should vary from person to person. Emulating the world's transformation within one's own body to achieve Hongyuan doesn't necessarily require pursuing the ultimate. After all, worlds are large and small, and cultivators, talents and potential are high and low. It is enough to fully realize one's potential. The only thing needed is to find such a supreme sage teacher. Not only must they have a profound understanding of the world, but they must also be willing to share their insights with others patiently and without reservation. As Superior Shangren spoke, he looked at the Holy Emperor of Heavenly Mandate before him. Although I am willing to be a teacher to the world, alas, Li Ping paused slightly. My own understanding of the Tao of the world is not enough, so how can I teach others? I think the only one in the entire Xuanwang realm who is qualified to be this teacher is probably the Celestial Venerable of Cultivation Method, right? To have the Celestial Venerable of Cultivation Method revolt against himself. Fellow Taoists' path to the Hongyuan Golden Elixir needs to be carefully considered again. Superior Shangren was unable to refute, a trace of unwillingness and confusion flashing in his eyes. Li Ping came with excitement but left in disappointment. He left Superior Shangren in place and returned alone. He soothed Baihua Daoran, who had rushed over, thinking that the Xuanwang realm had been attacked by the Myriad Immortal Alliance and was searching for the enemy. And rewarded her with some golden source power as a reward. As a pure crystallization of cultivation, golden source power is a great tonic for Baihua, who is a pure energy body. Baihua first thanked him, and then solemnly absorbed it. What you gave this time. After swallowing the golden source power, before Baihua Daoran could finish a complete sentence, she turned into an unbelievable exclamation. Why is it so dense? It even seems like source power essence. Baihua Daoran looked at Li Fan with shock. Her glazed body became more brilliant and solid at a speed visible to the naked eye. Years of hidden injuries were slowly repaired, and even the connection with the fishing pond that had captured her, which had not disappeared even after escaping, seemed to become negligible under the scouring of the golden source power. Correspondingly, Baihua Daoran looked at the faceless Holy Emperor in front of her, and his incomparably profound figure was slowly imprinted in her heart. Li Ping did not explain anything, only leaving Baihua with an extremely mysterious back view. Is he already so close to the realm of true immortals? How is that possible? Baihua was extremely horrified in her heart, but the surging golden source power in her body, which far exceeded the mortal realm, seemed to be the best evidence for her speculation. As an incarnation, Li Ping's realm has naturally not surpassed that of the main body. He still remains in the nascent soul realm, and even most of his combat power comes from the Holy Dynasty Great Chi's fortune. His own strength is pitifully weak. The reason why he can create golden energy essence that is infinitely close to source power essence is because of a special group of people. Beneath the Holy Emperor's throne, deep underground, dark and sunless, without a trace of sunlight. However, there is a group of people living here who are not affected at all. In addition to their normal daily life, their most important task is to pray to the Holy Emperor's stone statue.